Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I think I'm like 2 seconds late this morning. Wardrobe malfunction. That's why. Wardrobe arrived. Had to get dressed. So sorry. There we go. And we're live on YouTube. That's confirmed now because it popped in my ear. Good morning. Good morning. Holy smokes. 8 people. Well, I'm very honored that there's so many of you here so quick. Thank you so much. I'm very, very honored. Yesterday was a really cool day for us. We grew quite well. We had a good day. We had a good inquiry. We had some good guests. We had Andy Lee and Chris in the afternoon. We had on the lunch break. And then we had a surprise guest at the end of the day. If you missed it, maybe go back to the last hour or so of yesterday to check it out. Kind of an anonymous guest. We don't really know who he is. And if you're listening, I'm pretty sure you're an American. It doesn't matter, you wanted to connect and contact and talk. That was cool. Pretty sure you're American. You said Zed. You didn't say, you said Z. You didn't say Zed. You knew way too much about America, very little about Canada. But it's all good. It was a really cool conversation. Check it out. I think it was worth a re-listen. So this morning, this is what's like life on the grid. This is what it's like when you're off grid. Okay, you get little notes like that from your wife in the middle of a stream to let you know that things are beeping and things aren't working as expected. But it's all good. We dealt with it. We had lots of training last night, so everybody learns how to use the systems. But today we're going to be extra cautious. We got the full sun, so we should have no interruption. But the generator is on standby, full of gas. UPSs are all topped up. I'm doing everything I can to keep this live. It's in Elon's hands after that. Let's hope it's in some good hands there. Let me say good morning to my chat. You are, I think, YouTube's #1 chat. That's what I say. I'm gonna go out on a limb, and you're YouTube's #1 chat. Terry, good morning, buddy. Beaton, Ontario. Beaton. I don't know if I know that name. Peninsula for Grey County. Where are you? I'm not sure where Beaton is. Is that over along the 401 towards Montreal anywhere? Where's Beaton? That's me. Hi, Terry. Good morning, Railroad. So my fellow Albertan, my moderator, so don't even try and put the bots in. She's going to take care of you. Nice to see you, Railroad. Really, really excited that you keep coming back. Really excited that you're helping out. Much appreciated. And give me your post office box or something. Let me send you, I don't know, t-shirt or a mug or something. Let me say thank you. Connect with me that way, okay? And yeah, it's cold here. Yeah, woke up this morning too. We are ready to put our trailer into the shelter. It's happening today. We got some buddies coming by. We're gonna get ourselves into our shelter and get out of the snow and start getting ready for the winter. We've survived last winter the same way. It worked out great. So we'll be fine. We just have to get a couple steps done now. Morning, Railroad. You're awesome. And my question to you, Railroad, about this thing, you'll get it. So if you want to get into it, let's connect. Get me your email. Give me an address so I can send you some gifts, and I'll get you into the back-end studio stuff. That will allow you to star the comments, and then I can focus on the starred ones, so I don't miss the conversation. Good morning, Azario. Here's another chatter turned guest. So there is a guest appearance from Azario. Azario, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go and find that piece, and I'm going to pull it out, and I'll make you one of those extra videos too. It was a great conversation with you, and I really hope to do that again. Terry McDonald, I think you popped by first time yesterday, maybe another stream before that, or you've been here all along. Really nice to see you. And yeah, Barry. Between Toronto, yep, the 400. So when it gets stuck and it turns into the Don Valley Parkway or parking lot. I've driven the 400 quite a bit. I did a lot of stuff in Barrie for the Barrie Colts ticketing, event ticketing, and Impact Live. The event promoter out there, John Durlis, great man, great person, great guy. Partnered with him for a lot of things, and that whole COVID thing really hit the night scene hard in Barrie and everywhere else. So hopefully he's recovering. Ask your bartender. Nice to meet you. Coffee Canada strong. Here's my coffee. I got a coffee. And if you want a mug, you can get one. But I got one. Good morning, good coffee. Good day. It's going to be a good day. Hey, Railroad. Lots of hearts to you, too. And then Terry, sunny again today. Yep. We got sunny here. Last raw. Yeah. And then lots of snow. We got lots of snow days coming. 100% Jason. And I truly enjoy it and would be happy to do it again when time permits. Stay connected. Every once in a while, Rosario, I will, say to the chat, hey, anybody want to come up? Put your hand up. Say, yeah, I'll be there. Or I'll throw the link in and then you just hit it and come on in. Smash that like and subscribe. Yeah, I want to say to all of you who do this in my chat, remind people that's awesome. That's awesome, and it's working. There is some magic that's happening there because the likes and the views and everything are just going up. And Rumble too. Okay, Rumble as well. It's growing. So whether you're here on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, LinkedIn, and what's the other one? Twitter. So those are all places I'm streaming live right now. Reminder, if you're on LinkedIn, you only get the first 4 hours. I don't have enough followers on LinkedIn to do the stream to my MP page. So I have to do the stream through my personal profile on LinkedIn. And that's a 4-hour limit. So if you're watching this and you want to help me out on LinkedIn, go and follow my page, Jason Lavigne MP. You'll find it on LinkedIn. And just follow it. And once I get to 100 follows on there, it will unlock the ability to stream to the page itself. And then I believe it can go a lot longer. But if you are watching on LinkedIn, hello, thank you. Get back to work. You're a professional. You should be working. And it's probably Matt that's watching. But then if you want, kick over to Rumble or Twitter or YouTube and catch the rest of it. Same deal for Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, you got 8 hours. So you got 8 hours to make up your mind whether or not you like this stuff. And if you do, first 8 hours is free. Go over to Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, and catch the other 2, 3, 4 hours that remained. Don't worry, I'm not trying to do that whole push you to another platform. That's a limitation of Facebook. They only want to hear you for 8 hours. But we also like Facebook because they haven't taken a single video down yet. Can't say that about YouTube. I'm collecting the YouTube badges here pretty quickly. We don't have bad content. We're not doing misinformation. And we certainly haven't doxed or harassed anybody, but yet got the strikes. Terry, yep, snow. Steams up sudden without... Oh, yeah. Lots of... Yeah, there's a bad one not too long ago where there was a good pileup on the 400. And there's lots of video of it. Oddly enough, autonomous driving may help with that. Okay, just checking the stream. I got the stream. We're good to go. Railroaded. Remember, folks, if you are out of time with chat, you look up. Yeah, and I did that for mine too. So I'm going to switch it to live chat if you want to get everything. Not sure why that's not the default, but that's the case. And enjoy it. There's a lot of chat. We were getting well over 1,400 chats a stream now. So enjoy that. All right. So yesterday, I reached out to Tom Mazzaro about his poppy. Okay. And he gave me a response. And when he gave me the response, it was a good response. I thought it was a good response. But I had to make sure he was cool with me sharing it because, well, it was a good response, but he has a choice whether or not he wants it shared. So he said, yes. He said, yes. He said I could share it. So that's what I'll do. We all noticed that he wasn't wearing a poppy yesterday. And we thought, well, what's up with that? But he was wearing a pin. Some people zoomed in to see what it was, and it wasn't a poppy. So I sent him a message and said, hey, you have no poppy on. It's being noticed. Just kind of wanted to give him a little nudge in case it was an accident or something. It's a very busy day, lots going on. It was just overlooked. I thought maybe at the break he might put it on. But it turns out he didn't have a break. Like they just did the full thing for him. But he responded, and his response I thought was telling. Here it is. I'll share it with you. I won't wear a poppy until the Legion apologizes to James Topp and stops doing drag queen shows with children. Quite a statement. And of course, I checked if I can share that with you, and I got the thumbs up. So that's interesting. So he's protesting with the poppy. I am going to wear mine. That's his choice to do that, and I honor it. I respect it. And I found it was worth sharing with you because this is a little bit about Tom. Who is he? What is he about? And even faced with closing of bank accounts, even faced with being pulled into an inquiry, even faced with mug everywhere and hit pieces everywhere, he's still going to protest what he thinks is right. I think that's kind of telling. I kind of like that. So he let me share it with you. I hope it kind of gives you a little bit behind the scenes of Tom, because he's a human too. And yeah, we will be seeing him on the stream at some point. I don't want to push him, but I'm going to send him the link today, and I'm going to cross my fingers, and I'm going to go, maybe he's got 5 minutes and we can get it. And I also have a clip for you from yesterday. Paul Champ, if you missed it, Paul Champ didn't have a good day yesterday. We've been, on the fence with Paul Champ. Sometimes we're like, rah, go Paul, because he goes after everybody. And then sometimes we're like, oh, Paul, like, you keep beating a dead horse. That narrative is not valid. You need to stop. But today we saw a different one. I think we saw a very, very frustrated Paul, because unfortunately, inside of an inquiry, Paul, there is no editor and there is nobody who's going to be journalistically aligned with you. So they're controlling the narrative. And I think you found that out because either he didn't know the truth. Okay. It's possible. Maybe it's possible. He's just in that bubble and he really didn't know the truth. But what happened and what we will see in this clip is he definitely lost his cool, because he's also losing the narrative. And it's starting to sink in. And yesterday we were talking a bit about empathy, about the other side. When they start to come around, they start to remorse and all that kind of stuff. One of the first stages of grief is denial and anger and denial and anger. Those are the first two. And we're seeing this here. This is what we're seeing here. We're seeing first, he goes into denial because he hated what he's been seeing the last 2 days. And then he gets into anger, and then we get to see it. It's recorded and it's taped. So we get to play it for you. You're going to see this. You're going to see people go through these kind of realizations as they wake up, because it sucks. So quite frankly, maybe he was in a bubble for so long, last 9 months, focused on all the legal stuff, focused on all his clients, focused on all those stories and believing them all, that he never even bothered to go check out the real world and what actually happened. And this might have been his first time seeing it. And this is his reaction, because not only was this incredibly inappropriate, he's going to have issues with his licensees, like the licensing board, Law Society of Ontario. He's going to have issues. There's going to be a complaint, many complaints. Many people are going to file complaints about this. And in another clip with Tom Mazzaro, he was anti-Semitic. So that's definitely going to be popping his head up for him. There's no room for that in any civil discord. So for him to do that, it's definitely not going to bode well for him. But here's that clip. Let me get it on the screen for you. I think this is the moment where Paul Champ has reached the anger stage of grief, because he's now realizing where the narrative truly is going, or is, and it wasn't his version. And for many reasons, personal, business, legal, professional, for many reasons, the narrative collapsing on Paul is not a good thing for him. So I think we see that right here. There we go.
Now, Mr. King, you obviously could not and did not know everyone who was in Ottawa during that protest, right?
No, there was millions of people.
Well, thousands anyway, for sure.
Hundreds of thousands. Let's not undersell it. There was a lot of people here.
We'll agree to disagree. There weren't hundreds of thousands, but
Right.
it was a bit of a dangerous situation with all those people downtown. Would you agree?
Dangerous in what way?
Well, dangerous. You don't know what people might have in their trucks. You don't know what they might do. They're very upset. They're very angry. Was that a dangerous situation for downtown?
Not at all.
Okay.
I met the most loving, most caring, most loving people, Canadian citizens. Everywhere you went, you were getting hugs. You were getting handshakes. And
well, then why
nobody was violent.
Why did you need security then yourself? It was so dangerous that you yourself needed security. Isn't that right?
Because the liberal left trolls were threatening my life. Okay,
so that was dangerous, right?
For me.
Just for you. You're the only person in downtown Ottawa who is at risk. Is that right?
Actually, I was the most highly protected person in Ottawa, because I think they had delegated 8 police officers to follow me around everywhere.
So, Mr. King, we've heard evidence that many federal elected officials, the mayor of Ottawa, had received death threats. We've heard evidence that someone was actually arrested with firearms who was coming to Ottawa. who had been making threats about
Do you have a
Mayor
record
Watson,
of that? Do you have a?
who had been, I'm asking the questions, Mr. King.
Sorry.
So, but you would agree with me that it was probably a dangerous situation for elected officials in Ottawa?
It was a dangerous place for us. People were dropping marbles from high rises. They were throwing eggs. Citizens of Ottawa were threatening to run us over.
King, you yourself said that someone who was maybe stressed out because of lockdowns and so forth might be compelled to shoot Mr. Trudeau. So you understood and recognized that that was a risk, right?
That was months before the convoy.
Also, but everyone was all, they were all settled down by the time the convoy came and there was no threats to anyone.
I've never seen anything more loving and peaceful in my life. Right. It was Woodstock.
So the only person who's at risk in Ottawa was Pat King. All the other threats to anyone else in Ottawa were all fake. Is that right?
I don't know. I can't speak on those. You know, my lawyer has been given death threats and bomb scares because she represents me. Do you know that my friends have been, their children have been threatened because of, from Ottawa? Do you know that, and I hate to say this, but this town is full of a bunch of people who really don't like people who speak out.
I disagree, Mr. King. Ottawa has dozens of large protests, many much larger than the one that you organized every single year.
I've been here for it.
I'm not sure that was a question.
Well, Mr. Commissioner,
can I just
I'll just note, Mr. Commissioner, I'll just note for the record that the people of Ottawa got one morning in this proceeding. We've had a week of all of these convoy organizers given a full platform to say whatever they want. The people in Ottawa respect the right to protest, and these folks are getting their time to say everything they want from the.
Can I say one? Sorry.
I'm sorry. Just I'm going to stop this. You'll get. Yeah. Hey,
please.
Could you ask?
Yeah, folks, you don't do that. You don't do that. That's not a place to preach. That's not a soapbox. And what is his problem? He could have produced many more witnesses. He could have petitioned more witnesses to come. If he wanted it or needed more than one day, provide the witnesses. And what is he talking about? He's talking about Lexi Lee and that other Victoria De La Ronde. Yeah, they were the only two that stepped forward. Is that what you're actually telling us here, Paul? And what are you frustrated about? Everybody's getting like equal time. There's just witnesses. There's many of them. What he's frustrated about is that narrative just fell apart on him. That's what he's frustrated about. $400+ million lawsuit that he's filed. You may have missed it, but at the beginning of the Pat King testimony, Mr. Champ was bragging about locking up his bank account in Alberta. Still locked up because it's going to be part of an order of an injunction or a civil lawsuit from Ontario that Paul has filed. He's also locked up the donation money, the stuff that was released and collected separately from GoFundMe and Give Send Go. There was others, of course, donations coming in, and of course, being legit and making sure they're tracking everything. It was all put into and collected into accounts that were blocked by Paul. And even the crypto, he managed to succeed at getting the crypto accounts. Many donations were put there too, locked. So Paul is quite active, very active. I think as a lawyer, like if you need a lawyer to do that kind of stuff, he's quite effective. But he's also he's got a lot of narrative that's not going to work anymore. This inquiry is going to definitely be used in all of those lawsuits that he's part of in order to either build the foundation he needs or destroy the foundation he has or is trying to build. In either case, this was a bad day for Paul, and he certainly lost his cool there. And then there was an anti-Semitic reference. I really hope that there are complaints about that one, because there's no place for that. There really is no place for that. He was questioning Tom Mazzaro about Diagolon. And he made a comment about the diagonal white provinces, the meme part thing. Paul said it was for whites only. That's never been true, ever. That's something that Paul just added to it. And in response to that, Tom Mazzaro explained how the entire group is diverse. There's a lot of different people in it. Everybody's welcome. There's certainly none of that, what he just said. And one of the best friends of Jeremy is Canadian African Canadians. So Tom's point was like, are you really trying to say that this is a white supremacist group when it has every single type of person you can imagine in it, including some of the people who are very close to the leader? So the point Tom was making was your narrative is just your narrative. It's not even true. It's your narrative. And then in response to that, Paul Champ asked so rudely if the accountant was Jewish for Diagolon. Paul, that should be something that you need to atone for. You need to stand and understand that it was incredibly inappropriate on many different levels. And I hope you learn from that. And I hope that's the last time you ever say anything like that under any conditions, frustrated or not. That was just bad. First, trying to mislabel a group, and then when you were corrected, to try and mislabel them in another way, or it's not even a mislabel to the group, because that doesn't even matter. Like whether or not it doesn't even matter. What it just demonstrated from you, Paul, is the way you think is to hurt, be silly, use labels, stereotypes. I think you were exposed, Paul. There was a rumor in my chat that Paul left or stormed out or was asked out or something along those lines. I didn't look into it. We'll see if he's there today. That's kind of what I just thought when I saw those comments was, well, we're less than 12 hours away from finding out if he's there or not. So I'll just wait for that instead of going into the rumor mill. But if you do know, and there is a way to confirm that he did get stormed out or he stormed out or he was asked to leave or something along those lines, that yeah, I'd like to know. And Alan, you're 100% right. What's the point? What's the point? It's just a stereotype. It's a rude one. It's one that we've already in society said, we're done with that. We're done with that. There's no more room for that anymore. But yet here's a lawyer who's representing a group of residents and businesses. I wonder how his clients feel about that comment. Are they willing to overlook that in addition to other things he's done so far that's a little bit too aggressive? Because he does represent them. That representation goes two ways. Okay, that goes two ways, Paul. You can make your clients look really bad. That representation goes two ways. So we got lots from Ellen. Yeah, bad look. Once again, he thought his views. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, look, that's what I think he's bubbled. I think he's like really bubbled, because how could you really go to that level of painting that kind of picture when it just didn't exist? You don't even have video of it. And then faced with video and testimony from other people who were actually there, not people who claiming to be victims, it was just too much for him. And that's unfortunate, because a professional would have been prepared, and a good lawyer is already aware of the warts and the elephant in the room and all the other stuff they need to be aware of in order to respond to it, have an answer to it, and most of the time be the one that brings it up. They could have jammed the card with witnesses. Yeah, sure. 100%. And that's the case. So if you look at the plaintiffs, there's a lot of unnamed and stuff like that when they were getting going. And Zexi Lee is really the only one pushing it. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the other witness that was there, Victoria De La Rone, she's Zexi's lawyer. And they didn't talk about that, and they didn't bring that out. Now, she's not Zexi's lawyer in this matter, so she's not Zexi's lawyer for the inquiry, but she was the one that filed all the stuff that got Zexi started. Okay? So, two peas in the pod, kind of working together, kicking things off. Zexi is a government employee, works for CRA, works remote. Not saying that, anybody enticed her to do all that, but that's who she is. Okay? And if you look into her, there's also questions about who was she before all of this? There's very little about her before that. So anyways, Zexi Lee and keep forgetting her name. I guess my brain doesn't want it. Victoria De La Rone. Those were the witnesses called, and we heard from them. And if there was more, and if there was real victims, maybe someone assaulted, maybe somebody that actually had issues with work, maybe a business that had to shut down because of the inquiry or because of the emergencies, because of the protest, bring them forward. Okay, Paul, that's what the job is. I think we all know why. You just simply didn't have them. There is no real victims. You wouldn't have a business stand on there and lie and tell you something that wasn't true. They all know that they were shut down by the government, and anyone that stayed open did well until they got shut down by the government. Iconic Cafe. If anybody knows how to get a hold of them, try and connect me. I'll have them on. We can talk about what happened after the cameras went off. More happened behind the scenes after we saw those videos of the police and inspectors at the door. And what I mean by that is they ended up getting evicted because a landlord evicted them. So I'd love to know more about what pushed the landlord over the top to do that. Yeah, Champ's reputation is no kidding. Like Terry, look, I have respect for a lot of people just off the bat because of how hard it is to become a lawyer and how hard it is to do all that, and then to be good enough to kind of be selected to be part of the stuff. So right off the bat, I'm giving Tom Curry, Paul Champ, I'm giving David M. He's got a great last name. It's hard to say. Brendan Miller. I'm giving them all credit. They all start off with credit because to get to where you are took a lot of effort and work. And then you can either climb or nosedive. Paul was doing this with me. He was doing this with me because I really liked how he was going after everybody and he was really trying to get things that were helpful for his client out. But where I kept going down with him was when he would get petty, he would overblow, he would embellish, or he would just kind of make up things to try and make it seem like it was an issue. For example, the propane tanks. First, it was just propane tanks walking around the city. Then it was propane tanks close together and piled up. And now we've heard about propane tanks close together, piled up near burn barrels. So each time we hear the story, it's being added to because they're not working. Nobody really cares about carrying propane tanks around. What do you mean? They're stacked up. You can go all over the place. They're in certified containers. Unless you're puncturing them, what's your concern? So you have to keep making it worse. Pretty soon we're going to hear about propane tanks in the fire. That will be the next evolution of that story. So yeah, Paul Champ, you took a hit. I'm curious if you're there today. I'm curious what your clients had to say about that, because you're going to have a diverse client base if you really are representing all the residents or a good chunk of residents. You're going to have a diverse client base, and they're most certainly not going to be pleased with what you did there. Good luck with that, Paul. You're going to have to address that, and I believe the Law Society, absolutely, they're going to be receiving complaints from all over Canada for that one for you. This little sparring with the commissioner, that's not complaint worthy. That's not something that you're going to be reviewed for, but your comment about the accountant will be, most definitely. Yep, exactly, Helen, and that's why, because it is. There was no reason for that kind of question. Yeah, he's going to have to explain that one. If he is there, it should be made to apologize. Well, that would be what would maybe happen. Okay, we've seen that before, where somebody loses their cool, and then the very next day they would say to the court, "Court, I would like to address the court," or "Commissioner, I'd like to address the commission," or "Canada, I'd like to address Canada," something. And hat in hand, atone, because that is the next step. If you take a different step, you're just going to have to address and deal with the consequences you've created for yourself. So good luck with that. I think you have good skills. You certainly are an aggressive. You certainly are productive, and you can do the job. So I don't understand why you would want to flush your career away over a frustrating comment. So I really hope you fix that up. We all deserve a second chance, Paul. And if you learn that lesson today, maybe you should go back to your clients and understand really where they're standing. And Paul, one of the best things to do when you over litigate something, when you go too far and then you realize, is to be the one who scales it back. If you're the one who scales it back and not forced to through court orders and dismiss and motions and stuff like that, if you're the one who's scaling it back to become reasonable, you have a much better chance on advancing your file. If you're going to stand there, even when you know that you don't have legs, and you're going to continue to prop up fake ones, enjoy the consequences. They're not going to be what you wanted. So on that note, Paul, I really wish you the best. I got the stream. It's live. I'm going to set it up now. We're just minutes away. And I hope we have a wonderful day. Let me just get a stream on there, and then I can go to the witness list, because we got Tamara. We've got BJ. Here, let's put it like this. There we go. We got, let me just get to there. This is one I'm missing. Oh, James Bowder. So James Bowder seems to be a bit of a different group. Canada United, something like that. Close, not totally associated, but close. Maybe Maybe we'll hear some interesting things from him. BJ is quite the core figure. We're going to hear a lot. And then, of course, Tamara. I'm really hoping Tamara gets a lot of time. And I really hope that what we end up hearing from here is enough that Tamara's charges are dropped, quashed, court throws them out, apology, a whole whack of stuff. Because we have not heard anything criminal. Not even close to criminal. She shouldn't be charged. I think the evidence is coming out now. And again, like I just advised Paul, when you're the one that brings things back, it's better than letting a court or another judge force you to do the right thing. So the government of Canada, the ones in the Crown Attorney's Office, the ones responsible for advancing charges on Tamara, really? Give some faith back in Canada.
Order
do the right
allowed.
thing. Drop those charges. Give her everything back. And thank you. Enjoy the morning. This is going to be fun. Okay. We got a lot of stuff there. All right. And we got a lot in the chat. All right. We got a lot to go over. Let me first go and get the original stream. That little hiccup this morning with the French. That was a lot of fun, wasn't it? Right. Let me see if the original stream is working proper now. We had to move quick, didn't we? Okay, there we go. Yeah, it seems to be looking good. Okay, so we'll have the original stream back. That's full screen, HD, the whole 9 yards. And then we have that backup, the new backup stream if something goes wrong. Whew. Okay, yeah, Ellen, you're sticking with your gut. You're sticking with your gut. Okay. I just want to highlight a couple things that kind of came up in the chat near the end there with Goose and Terry and me and other people. Look, I don't think there's a problem here that BJ showing disorganization and splitting and fracturization, and I don't see a problem with that because all that's truly doing, well, first, it's the truth. So we're going to have to deal with the truth, whatever it is. And I guarantee you there's going to be a lot more truth coming that some of you won't like. Regardless of what side you're on, there's definitely going to be truth that you're not going to like. I think that what we should be doing with this inquiry at this stage is just learning how to deal with truth, process it, good and bad, because we're going to be getting it. Now, back to this fracturing going on. Here's why I think it's good for the people. I'm going to stop saying the Freedom Convoy or the convoy versus the government, and we'll start talking about what we really should be looking at here, and it's the people versus the government. So I think the BJ's testimony is good for the people, because what it's showing is, yeah, there's different factions, and we saw Farfado was one. We saw some aggressive ones from the east were there. We saw some good people all over the place were there. We saw a main convoy, which kind of seems to be around the 70% mark of how many people participating were part of that main one. We saw a Bridget one. We're seeing BJ having some input, maybe not directly trying to be a leader, but certainly doing leader actions, making comments like we shouldn't do daily press releases, they should be weekly. He's given comments, commenting about Twitter, using all of these other tools and stuff. He may not have said I want it to be the boss, but he certainly was doing boss-like functions, at least contributing on that level. And pecking order. I think we're back to the pecking order there. Okay, so that's fine. That's not going to make the government be able to show that the EA was necessary. Because let's play this out. What should the government do if they're dealing with a protest that has, let's say, 5, 6, 7 different recognized, because the government doing their work should have recognized that there was 4, 5, 6, 7 different fractions. And what should the government do when they're dealing with that? Well, what they did here was they said, well, we're going to go to the largest group, which is about 70%. We're going to try and convince them to go do all the heavy lifting and work to try and get all the other groups behind them. And we're going to use them like a liaison in order to get this work done. Okay, government, can I please offer you an alternative to that? Work with every single group individually. Why are you trying to cause one group become the majority speaker? I think you like a monopoly type of environment where one speaks for all, but that's not the real world, Mr. Government. Why didn't you have 7 PLT teams talking with each one, negotiating individually? Why send Tom Marazzo over to the different groups to try and be the peacemaker? See, as a citizen, I would have demanded that my government treat every group that identified themselves as an individual group and treat every individual too. If there was just an individual, talk to them. Your job, government, is to actually exhaust all options. So are you telling me that you only had the option to work with one group that showed up? Sure, they were the large ones. Sure, they identified some leaders. Sure, they were active and going around trying to assist in a whole bunch of different ways, including emergency lanes, etc. But I think you failed on that front, OPS. Maybe even the OPP. I don't know what the OPP was negotiating with all the other groups or not. We didn't hear testimony around that. But we do know that the city was cooperating at least with the Convoy group at one point. But we didn't hear anything from Steve K about talking to any of the other groups. Look, if the government thinks that they can paint a picture that the police station failed, collapsed because the negotiation with the main organizers collapsed in some way to remove everything, I think you're going to fall flat on your face and you're going to have a lot of egg to clean off after, because we actually expect more from you just on a day-to-day level. What do you mean you're trying to make one group represent everybody else? Do you do that at all protests? So when BLM and other groups show up and then there's counter protesters and then there's agitators, do you turn to BLM and say, hey, look, go and control those agitators and make them stop causing problems because we're worried about the violence that might break out between the two of you? No, they wouldn't do that at all. They would go to the agitators and say, hey, look, we've recognized you and we're here to talk to you independent from the main group. So do that here too. Why didn't you do that here too? Look, I'm having a hard time eating this incompetence option. Like, we have many options to explain what's going on here. Incompetence is one of them. But I don't know, man. Like, this is a lot of incompetence. I don't get it. Sorry, I'm going to jump into the chat quick here. I was expecting Terry to join me, but Terry, look, if it's a tech issue, click that link, try and figure it out. Maybe eventually you'll pop up in my studio. Can't really help you live next time, but happy to continue. And Terry, you have a lot of good stuff, so I do want to get you on here and talk to you. I'm confused about, let's see what you got here, Ellen. I'm confused about the deal testimony. Is he trying to say that there were no negotiations? The cops admit as much, and I'm not quite following. Look, he was disconnected. I think what's going on here with BJ's testimony is he was kind of like Bridget at one point, and definitely like Pat at the beginning, put to the side and kind of kept a bit of a distance. We will hear testimony from Tamara on this as well. I'm sure she's going to be explaining why BJ and Pat and others were kind of being distanced. We'll hear that. And then to answer you, Ellen, I think he was kind of a different type of Pat that frustrated people. Maybe they identified him as difficult to work with. I'm not saying he was, but he certainly has some virtue. His first name drop, I found that peculiar. Name dropping someone from the bloodline, possibly. And then it kind of continued from there. There were some more virtue drops. There were some more things that aren't material other than trying to paint himself as a certain person. Maybe it works for him. Maybe it doesn't. I didn't really have a problem with it because it's not material. But it does show that he has a certain type of leaning, and he definitely has some opinions on Jeremy. Those are his, and if Jeremy did those things that he said he did to him, then yeah, I would understand his personal feelings on that. You should not do that kind of stuff for sure. But at the end of the day, that's still not an EA level thing. Or do you think I'm wrong, Goose? Do you think I'm wrong, Terry, that the organization, the ability to actually have a single leader control everybody is vital to policing, and the police department shouldn't be expected to work with every group in order to negotiate and work with them like PLT level? They should only just use resources and isolate it into one. I don't see how that's really a failure of the people to the level where the government needs new tools in order to deal with the people in that situation. Like, if we literally had a protest where we actually had 3 distinct groups show up, is that going to be the EA level now? Does it have to be structural protests? Like, it makes no sense. Why did they not have 7 or 8 PLT groups going? Sure, it's a lot of work. You're dealing with a big protest. You could ask your prime minister to fix it all, but lacking that approval, you got to work with what you got. So Goose, Terry, some others here, if they are trying to paint a picture that the system was beyond repair at that moment and there was no other options, I think this is a bad path. I think the path of trying to blame it on the people, not being able to coordinate around one single leader, is a horrible narrative and a horrible attempt to try and lay down the foundation for the use of the EA. Going into the morning, there's a little bit more there, actually. So we had a lot of that financial presentation, right? Let's not forget about that crypto and the bank accounts and $1 million and the dates and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to be frank with you because that's my job. I'm actually not comfortable with some of what I heard. I'm not comfortable with some of what I heard. First, I just want to kind of highlight that, yeah, it looks like there's a lot of mechanisms being put in place. There's a lot of people establishing themselves as the financial leaders. GoFundMe kind of went through this process to establish all that kind of stuff. They did get to a point where they were satisfied because they released $1 million. And then for some reason, we heard the presentation, it was missing a really big gap. There was a big gap in there, which I think was kind of important because the presentation said, I think it was February 4th or February 3rd, GoFundMe got into a meeting. I think it was late February 3rd. They had a meeting. And then by the end of February 4th, they had closed the fundraising and announced they're going to do a refund. Come on. What about the Florida part? Okay. There was more than that, people. GoFundMe, first they announced that they were going to freeze or suspend or something like that. Freeze or suspend. And then they released it again. And then they released $1 million. And then they froze or suspended again. And then they announced that they were going to close the account, but they were going to redirect the $10 million to a charity. Now, I want to be careful of this part. It was either a charity of their choice or a charity of the city's choice or a charity of the original organizer's choice, but not their charity. I'm not really sure. I can't quite remember what they said they were going to do, but what we can say definitively was GoFundMe was going to redirect the 10 million to a charity, not the Convoys. I can't remember who was going to pick it, GoFundMe, the city, or the organizers, but that was the announced plan. DeSantis of Florida said, no. My Florida residents who donated it to that charity. You're not going to be redirecting it. And if you do, we'll sue. Then GoFundMe sent out an announcement saying we're doing refunds. It was not until they were pushed by Florida, and I think even New York. I think there was even another state that threatened. Could have been Texas. There was another state that even threatened to join Florida on that. So they quickly reversed that because GoFundMe is an American company. Florida is an American state. Some of the donations came from residents. They did that. Curious that missed the presentation. It could have been a quick one-liner. Could have said June or February 3rd, they had a meeting. They announced that they were going to redirect the funds to another charity. Then they announced that they were going to refund. They could have just, listed it in there to try and be complete and thorough, but they skipped that one. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not all that material, but I do think if you want to have a correct narrative and a correct record, you got to include everything. And that was a vital step because GoFundMe received a lot of pushback, rightfully so, for those decisions and announcements around that time. Again, none of this is going to collapse for the EA because even if somebody was defrauding this million, and even if it went where it wasn't supposed to go, and even if all of that's true, well, we have criminal laws and we have civil courts to deal with all of that. You don't need an EA. So even if all of that's true, even if it was foreign funded, even if it was money that came from bad people, because you can't really control who sends you Bitcoin, even if all that's true, we have existing finance, we have existing civil, we have existing criminal laws, we have existing securities laws, we have existing things that would make all of that dealt with. So again, no EA. I think what they're trying to do with all that crypto and that money is, as much as they allowed, because they are missing pieces, provide as much information as possible. So I'm thrilled with that because, again, we'll go through all of that information in due time as we're doing our sleuthing through all of this in the near future. But again, the purpose of this inquiry is to figure out whether or not the EA is justified. And the EA justification is quite simple. It has to be national emergency. We have to be threatened, espionage, attacks, stuff like that. It has to be a national emergency, not a provincial, not a municipal. It has to be a national emergency. And this is why the EA requires consultation with provinces, because you need more than one province to start calling yourself national as an emergency. So you need a national emergency, and you have no other options. Folks, we're forgetting about the Canadian Armed Forces. Canadian Armed Forces is always an option. It's always an option on the table. Do you know why the Canadian Armed Forces were not used at all for any of this, even though that is a valid thing to use? It's because they were asked and they declined. They declined on charter grounds. They're not going to turn the Army on peaceful Canadian citizens. Simple as that. The Army was consulted. They were asked. They declined for charter reasons. Now, there's no way the PMO can force the Army to do anything. You do that hard enough, and that's what leads to coups. The Army decides the leader is cuckoo, and that's the end of that. That wasn't our case. We weren't close there. He made a request, got denied, went back to the drawing board. But here's what we should think about. Even if it was a rogue state that came and attacked us or something like that, it would be the armed forces that went and dealt with it. We wouldn't be looking at getting the OPP, OPS, WPS, PPS, RCMP. We wouldn't be looking at using those police forces to deal with that. It would be the armed forces. That's why we have them. So we had plenty of tools, including the armed forces, if there was a national emergency and if there was a situation that needed to be dealt with. Again, we have plenty of tools to deal with that. The purpose of the EA is if armed forces failed and we need to do something else drastic, shut the borders, do this, do that, recruit people, get everybody to come in. That's what it's for. So we have plenty of tools. I got them in my ear now. So let's just put it on screen because that might have been a hot mic. Sorry for that. It's just something that we always forgot. We had plenty of tools. And the whole reason for the EA is to make sure that we exhausted them all. So there we go. We got a couple more. All right, let's go for the next half of this. It should be fun.
The commission is reconvened.
Maybe.
La commission reprend.
We'll see. Being really strict with the time there. 55 minutes for lunch, folks. 55 minutes. Go take your bathroom break early. 55 minutes for lunch. Sorry, I just want to address this. Chris, hi. I just want to address this misunderstanding, I guess, on my part with Terry here. Yeah, Terry, sometimes I'm reading so many messages and I'm a human. I'm infallible. So, look, my position on his testimony was where my pivotal moment with BJ is yes, he was the comms director. Yes, he had access to the social media accounts. Yes, he was, the one stepping up to do that. But that does not give him the right to change the narrative of the board. So if the board had a message out there that said, hey, we're doing a deal with the city, get ready for it, or here's the deal. Even if he disagreed with the function of the board and the move of the board and the message of the board, he had no right to use the official channels to communicate from the board's messaging, which was Tamara's social channel, to go ahead and put a counter message in there. Imagine, Terry, BJ worked for Coca-Cola. He got that job. He's such a good social media expert. He got that job. He understands memes. He understands what NPR, non-playable characters, are. He understands all that lingo. But then he sends out a message that says, drink Pepsi. Would you support him then? Would you support him? Because he's counter to the board and the message. He's not saying drink Coke. He's saying drink Pepsi. This is how I see this. This particular counter message, it didn't help. It caused confusion. It hurt the goodwill with the truckers and everybody else associated with the board. It hurt the goodwill in the board. Their comms person is approving and sending out messages counter to the initiative. So, Terry, that's where I'm coming from on that one. There's a lot more dynamics behind it, a lot more dynamics. I barely know BJ other than the testimony here. There were certainly nuggets of his testimony that I really liked. And there was stuff that made me go, I don't know why that's relevant. And then there was stuff that made me go, oh, well, I can see why there was, a rift and people were separating, from both sides. But overall, Terry, I think I would have fired him on the board. Okay, I would have fired him because your duty is to the board, not to yourself, not to your opinion, not even to the people on the street. Your duty is to the board. If you're a board member, your duty is to the board. In fact, he could be sued for that particular action for what he did. And it doesn't matter if he's right. Again, when you're part of a board, it's kind of important, don't you think? Do you think the police services board would have done that? Do you think the police services board would have sent out a message counter to the police services board because a particular member felt that way? No, they got to be unified. It's a board. So yeah, I see why he's kind of a bit of a lone wolf there. Got that message out, and please, Terry, understand. I'm really hanging my hat on that one because if I saw that behavior from a director and a board, it would have been with cause. That would have been with cause. You don't do that. You take it back to the board. You debate it. You ask. You get approval. Who's the chair? It wasn't him. He was the comms. So he should have gotten some sort of yay or nay on his idea, not to just shot it out because he thought so. And we did hear, Terry, that did cause a lot of problems. The city, Steve Kay, said, there was a misunderstanding. The message got confused. Just saying, Terry, I'm not coming down on BJ as a hypocrite. I know that came through a chat sometimes. He did say some things that kind of would borderline hypocrite. I'm not saying he ran with his tail between his legs. His bank accounts weren't attacked. The government didn't really think he was a leader then. They attacked all the leaders' bank accounts. Either case, that's where I'm at with that, Terry. Okay, so sorry. I think all that was relevant to what we were just doing there. And Chris, you jumped in. We had a long morning. And I guarantee you tomorrow's going to be a long evening too. So she's going to come up there and there's going to be a lot. So what do you think so far? What do you think about BJ? Did you know much about him? And where are you at with his testimony so far? Or today? Yeah, he's done now. That's the end of his testimony.
Yeah, I don't think it was helpful or really harmful. I think, from the overall, to me, it's a treasure trove of behavioral analysis. To me, it's so much stuff in there was petty, right? So when I look at the person and what they're saying is what's important to you, and I'm identifying some level of ego, maybe some misplaced sense of importance from the larger scale. Again, everyone I think was trying to make things work, but he seemed to be a problem. And whether or not you like Tom Marazzo, you like Keith Wilson, you are a fan of the JCCF, check your credentials. Yeah. In that scenario, right? It's a matter of who can communicate best to the public. And, I don't want to say anything necessarily personal. I had a whole thing I was going to go through, but it might be better for another time with regards to describing what the back channeling.
No, now's a good time. Please go.
Well, it's one of those things where in that scenario, I would have assumed it, and most likely was correct. You had operatives from everywhere, different agendas, black hats and white hats, or you want to say black shields or white shields. And in my experience, it's always been, most people think, right? It's like, oh, the MP's got the power, the MLA's got the power. No, the chief of staff does. The person that answers the phone does. Yeah. They're the ones that can make or break people. And when BJ brought in Dagny Pollock, this is when this happened during the convoy. I was like, what is going on? Because Dagny Pollock used to work for Marco Mendocino on his campaign. And so I'm not saying that that BJ is some operative. I'm not saying he's not. Right. But I'm saying that he could have been the person that opened the door and vouched, not even knowing, And so I don't get the vibe. I get an opportunist vibe from him. There's a lot of opportunists in this. Not just from him. Yeah, not just from him too. So again, I'm trying to just look at as more variables come in, the landscape becomes clear, but you can say option A, B, and C, right? I don't want to put him into a corner and say, would I do things differently in his situation? Absolutely. Yeah. I would be wanting to try and keep the harmony, keep that moving forward. If I've got a Marazzo that can communicate publicly, if I've got the JCCF saying we've got the legal bills, we're going to handle this kind of stuff. I think he was put off by it. I think he probably had a bigger idea of what his role was. And again, I used to follow him on my old account. And he was putting out stuff constantly. I didn't know until way later that it wasn't that it was Tamara. It wasn't Tamara putting stuff out. So I'm sharing all the content, just trying to be very objective with putting whatever information that can be at least somewhat credible. Mm-hmm. But I think those dynamics, we've seen it with other witnesses as well too, where there is a power struggle. And what they didn't have was someone in the room to remind people,
Yeah.
check your egos. Like,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Sorry, check
No,
your
no, no,
ego.
go ahead.
I think there was two things that really spooked BJ just from his testimony. One was the function of a board lawyer. The function of a board lawyer is to take instruction from the board, not the individual directors. And then the function of the board's lawyer is, once they have instructions from the board, is to follow through with those. So for Keith to reach out to him and say, we are doing ABC, and then the testimony was, I didn't like that because that's not instructions from me. The lawyer shouldn't be telling us what to do. Sorry, BJ, that's not true. Because the lawyer is not even representing a single director. It represents the entity of the board, the company. In fact, that's part of the legal requirement, is the lawyer, the corporate lawyer, is only defending and representing the corporation. So it has to get its instructions from the board through referendums and instructions.
And it's all validated, right? You have to have like a vote for it. And it's just a lot with lawyers. It's like they're driving the train, but you need to tell them which direction you want to go.
Exactly. And then the second part, I think, that spooked him, because he didn't like, I think, what felt to him like massaging by Keith Wilson, like massaging the situation. I think the second part that spooked BJ was Dean French being connected with Ford and Trudeau's office, and maybe he started thinking that Dean was a counter to them, and maybe Dean was trying to massage them in a certain way or something.
Yeah,
I think the combination of Keith Wilson, King's Counsel, Queen's Counsel at the time, King's Counsel, and then Dean French in the picture, and he saw that, like he said, look, he's talking to Ford and Trudeau. I think that spooked him, because now he's starting to wonder, well, are they actually on our side, or are they just trying to massage us into a situation? And by the way, that could be exactly what happened. I don't know. I don't know what Keith Wilson, Dean French, Tom Rosario were all really trying to do. We're learning. But from his testimony, I think those two things spooked him, because he focused in on that. And that's where he started to have a riff. I don't want the board lawyer telling me what to do. And why are they talking to Dean French and Ford and Trudeau? So I'm kind of sniffing that that's where he was coming from.
And specifying he hadn't talked to Katie Telford or Ford, right? Like, he was being in that text message. I'm just like, okay, now that's the stuff I love to see, is what's going on, where are the back channels coming from, and what is their goal. I never look at it back. Like, I think you mentioned yesterday, it's not healthy for a democracy to have people that back channel. I would agree. The only reason I did, but there's differences. I hated using the term fixer. A lot of people use that for me, and that's not, I never viewed it that way, because it's got such a negative connotation to it. But I never was brought into situations until it had devolved to a point where they needed to, it was just going to keep escalating and to a head. So to try and restart dialogue was most of the time I was brought in. But at the same time, if you're not familiar with that, the level of paranoia that could come in, like, that's common, that you have people behind the scenes. I never met Mr. French. His name came up a few times, but I was never involved in anything he worked on or what he was doing. But that's pretty much most chiefs of staff. They're in the position because they can discern level of risk, threat, time very quickly. Does this need to be dealt with now? How to handle it? And when the chief of staff, depending on who it is, they'll pick up the phone. They'll call up somebody that can get it done, and they don't care. They sometimes feel, a lot of the people on the other side that are the dark ones, the fixers, feel they don't have to worry about the law. So they can be unethical. They can just go and get things done. They can say whatever they want without recourse. And then you have, on the other side, you have people that are like politicians. We need to make sure this is at a distance, but we need to make sure if it ever comes back around that all of our ducks are in order, T's are crossed, I's are dotted. And oftentimes you send a government official in, the people won't talk to you. So when I went in, I wasn't working. A lot of the time when I worked for government, I never did this kind of work. It was when I was out doing my advocacy and they get a problem, somebody did whatever, municipal, federal, provincial, can you go and see if they're willing to talk? And my only thing with them was, don't lie to me. If I go in there and I'm going to try and help you find a resolution, that other side is also a thing. So with him, you had probably, within this scenario, you probably had CPC operatives, NDP operatives, Liberal operatives on multiple different levels, because it's all about information. Sure. They need to know what's going on, who is there on the ground that we can trust to try and stay ahead of the game. And that's what it always is just trying to find valuable, not valuable, but at least information you can trust. And I can see BJ being spooked by that if he's not familiar with that. I don't think he would have been someone that would have been. He's a good candidate. He speaks well. He can get a crowd going, but I don't think that he has the temperament or the ability to remain objective. Because that's what I'm seeing is that he's putting too much of what his own personal opinions in, and he's being slighted here, he's being slighted there, he's questioning what's happening, which you should do. But if you can't get to the point where your ego is off to the side, then you're going to create a problem. You'll alienate yourself, and people will start to question what your motivations are if you're giving resistance to Wilson Marazzo. Because again, it's a matter of how people are viewing them.
Right.
And from when the Mendocino's former campaign manager was brought into that group, I literally, if I could, I was like, Tamara, what are you doing, Tamara? You might want to have a little bit of distance, just even on the optics side, because it did go around the internet for a while. And so you don't want to have unforced errors. And I think that it'd be interesting to see what would have happened if BJ was given the torch and here, you solve the problems, right? I would much rather have someone like Wilson Marazzo and others, because they carry the name recognition, which is in a sense a level of protection. It didn't end up preventing the EA from coming out, but when you have people with that credibility, King's Counsel, again, you don't get to play in those games unless you're a player in a sense, right?
You get invited to King's Counsel.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's hard for us to be on the outside looking in, going, okay, who can we trust? Who's being genuine? And today I didn't see anything that prove the EA was justified. If you pull it right back to what's the value of today's testimony? He got to air a lot of his grievances and slam a few people, and I don't know him. Would I want to sit down with him? Not really. But at the same time,
I would interview him. I got a lot.
Yeah,
he had some really good parts. I think BJ.
Yeah.
Overall, I think he's a good person. I think he's just going to be very difficult.
Why do you think he wasn't? His bank accounts weren't frozen and he wasn't arrested? Like, why? That's not.
Well, we can just go with what we know, because we can easily speculate on that one. But what I would say that I'm comfortable with is the government didn't recognize him as a leader. That's it. They just froze all the leader ones. So they didn't. That's weird, because
he was doing all those just with him and Tamara briefings for such a long time in the beginning there.
Yeah, and then if you want to go down the rabbit hole, maybe scuttled the message, caused some confusion, and got out of there.
You can't know for sure, though, so don't view it as...
That's why I'm saying all we do know is the government didn't recognize him as a leader to target, right? Because that's what they did do. They targeted the leaders. So that would be the reason why, that we can say. Yeah. Their motivations, whatever. I don't have them on a witness stand. So I can't ask government Canada.
Could be fun to speculate one night, though.
It might also come out later.
True.
Yeah, maybe Brendan gets up there and says, all right, so who was informant number 4? And then they say, well, here's his name. And then big moment. Clay, let me ask.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, Clay, let me answer this question. Would the fact that BJ was using other people's channels' feeds for communication have been weighed before the people were barred from social media? No. You give up your PIN number, you're responsible for whatever that person does. Same thing with any account you have. You give someone an access to your account, it's called liability. It's a liability one. There's a term for it. It will come to me probably later. It basically means you're responsible for whatever your agent does. And this would be the case. So if she gave a password or gave a token and gave him access to her account, legally, she's fully responsible for everything he does. So no, the social media wouldn't weigh someone else had access to your account unless it was a hack. Because their first question would be, well, did you give it to them? And then that's where they hang up on you. And the answer is yes. Same thing at the bank. If you give a PIN number and your card to somebody, don't call the bank if they steal money from you, because you gave them access. So Clay, no, it wouldn't have been weighed because it wasn't declared as a hack. He would have been given access. And that's also why the lawyer started the questioning with what's a Twitter password, because they're implying that Tamara could have removed his access. And I assure you she did as soon as he sent that message. But at that point, it was too late. And of course, Tamara wouldn't have known he was about to send that message. So she could have prematurely or before the event removed that access. That message was the catalyst to have his access removed, I assure you. So don't try and switch it around there, lawyer guy. It wasn't up until he sent out a message against the board that the board had any reason to take away his access. Pretty normal. Go ahead and work for a company and then send out an email that's really counter to that company, send it to the whole world, and see how fast your access is turned off too. It would happen. Sorry about that. I was wanting to answer Clay's question because it's a good one. And then Terry, you're a star. If I could give you points, and if there was some way to give you a free YouTube Premium, you'd be getting it. You're awesome on your questions today, and your debating. It's been wonderful. If an error in communications by him, I'm sure there's a lot of errors. Sure, yeah. Did his error cause more harm than anyone else's? Look, you can't, Terry. I don't like that kind of the defending. Just because other people do stupid things, you can too. I don't buy that kind of argument there, Terry. And it's also, what does other people's actions have to do with your action? So it's not a way for you to justify your actions. I haven't any way at this point to analyze that. Well, I just did. His media appearances are still huge. No, we have testimony, Terry, that this particular tweet that went out, or might have been Signal or some other one. We have testimony, Terry, prior to today, that particular message was important. It broke goodwill amongst the truckers and caused confusion. It caused confusion with OPS, OPP, the city, and the truckers. So, Terry, it's a little bit more than just an error. And if you are on a board, you should know better. You can't do these kind of things. So I think BJ is just a little bit inexperienced, very excited to do what he thinks is right. And maybe being on a broken leg in that hotel room for so long caused him to kind of disconnect and do a couple things on his own. Not saying he was wrong, Terry. So I want to emphasize that. I'm not saying that his actions or his message was wrong. I'm just saying he didn't have the authority to do that. And he really should have stuck to the board. And if he disagreed with them, resign, go out and put your own messages. But don't use the resources and the channels that the board has to do so. You would be shut down pretty quick if you did that at your employment. And if you're an employer, Terry, you would shut them down too if your employee did that. Terry, McDonald's just one angle at JT may have wanted this. Okay, Goose, you have some good stuff too. He went out of his way to egg the truckers on as he moved across the country. Yeah, very true. Provoking. Maybe I'm adding too much D's to the chessboard. And here's something else, folks. I do want to highlight this again. I think I did a little bit of it yesterday. Look at how the government of Canada is expecting everybody to be painted with the same brush. So if Tamara did this, everybody is supposed to agree. If Tamara said that, everybody's supposed to agree. If Tom did this, everybody's supposed to agree. So does that make everybody that works for federal government also racist because JT said all that? Just because he has that opinion, should we now paint every single minister, MP, every single person that gets a paycheck from the federal government all the way down? They're all painted with that brush? Well, I think that would be ridiculous. But yet here we're watching it happen. So in real time, the government is expecting from a grassroots organization higher standards that they have, higher understanding that they have, and a cohesion that's impossible that they can't even create, and then using that to invoke the EA when it doesn't work. Is that where we're headed? Kind of sounds like it. Are they really trying to say that they were so incompetent that they needed ultimate laws to work it out? Sorry about that bit of a rant there, Chris, but what do you think? Do you think we are setting up for the government to say everything fell apart so bad from the ground to the bylaw, to the PLTs, to the OPS, to the RCMP, to the PPS, that we had to pull out the ultimate law? And is it even true?
Oh, it's not true. Not at all. Not at all. I think what you're right. I that's pretty clear. That's the direction they're going. And that's where it comes back to every time the witnesses take shots at each other, that helps the government. Mm-hmm. Right? Like but it's a big stretch to be able to say, right? It's different if you have a whole bunch of militant groups all over the place and you know, if we're in a situation where there is no streamlined structure, at least as far as identifiable leaders in the group with dialogue and other things that are going on. When you have those documents and you have, at least I would assume that you would have a situation where you have the JCCF, like the Keith Wilson, Tom Marazzo, Leach group. I see Dictor kind of being pushed off to the side in a way. But for them to be able to formulate and have a deal in play, it's kind of hard to pull back at that point, right? Had the deal been like with Wilson's email, Trudeau's going to be pissed. I get it. Probably shouldn't have used that language at the end, right? I wouldn't have. I would have on the phone afterwards if we're sitting having a whiskey laughing about it. Like, again, you don't want to have your personal and emotions in anything that can come back and harm you. I think it's an innocent email, but it does paint that picture of that, not necessarily professional.
Yeah,
but in this scenario, it comes back to what you mentioned on the first couple podcasts there, is that the recommendations of expectations to having more of a centralized command, they have nothing else. They have no evidence of harm. So they have to show a devolving in structure towards dialogue and the ability to have a peaceful resolution. I did like that Victor brought up the slowly comment. I remember that day when he came out and said there's no law solution here. This is a political solutions needed. Right. That's key, because that is huge when you're looking at if you can stay objective, but the government just keeps wanting to obfuscate and to try and paint that picture. Do I think it'll work? Well, so far, this commissioner we won't know until the report comes out, how seriously he's going to be taking what's being said, because I think it's quite a stretch to be able to go from, okay, they weren't communicating, some egos, there was disagreements, so we had to bring in horses to trample people and freeze bank accounts.
Right. That's a big leap, right?
That's a huge leap, right? But if you didn't have that, right? Like, think of the situation if there wasn't those official documents between Wilson and the city and others, where there was that process. They were already moving trucks. They were trying to get things done. If that hadn't occurred, I think this narrative would have been a lot easier to paint. Because even yesterday, when you saw, I feel bad for Keith Wilson as well, too, posting CCV's articles, and the only thing they pulled out of his testimony is that he encouraged the protests to continue after the Emergencies Act was evoked, right? And so when we see that kind of cherry picking, that's what will be interesting. What do they pull out of Dictor's testimony today? What are they going to focus on with Leach, right? So what the public sees and what reality is still that parallel universe that we're stuck in, that we can't get that through that bubble. But disclosure, man, 99% of the time when you have situations, it's trying to get people to the table to answer questions, to provide documents, to get all this stuff so you can put the pieces together. So when this is all over, as far as the fellow was mentioning the chessboard, we don't know what that chessboard looks like. Every day we get okay, pawn, queen, rook, right? We just don't know who those people are. We're never really going to know as far as the back channeling goes, as far as what was really going on. Because I'm surprised on...
Yeah, I was going to say the back row of the chessboard is hidden from us. We only see, right? There's a hidden privy back row. We don't get to see.
You might get to see the first two, but you're not getting any closer than that, right? Yeah. But even to see Telford's name in a text message, right? But it insulates her. It benefits to say, I haven't talked to her, so there's no reason to subpoena. There's no reason to be asking, what were you talking about? But you can guarantee everybody had their eyes on it and wanted to know what was going on at that time. So is Mr. French going to be testifying? Do we know?
I didn't see him on the list. And
that's surprising.
Well, let me refresh, because they like to add people just in the middle of the day. So let me quickly look for French. I got a Freeman and I got a Freeland, not a French.
Yeah, the insight into his, I think that would be some of the most fascinating testimony, because it would
maybe
give public...
Ford. We're finding out from Ford. I think one of my chat, I think was Prairie, that said Ford decision should be on the 8th or something like that. And
okay.
And maybe if Ford gets added, then maybe he'll drag French with him.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. That's the bus. Yeah. Again, for sure. I had no idea what he was doing. It wasn't on my behalf.
Talk to this guy. I gave him access to my Twitter. He was tweeting for me, right? It's his version of BJ.
And you can guarantee Mr. French knows well in advance that if that is exactly what's going to happen, right? Yeah. That's that protection that if you pick up the shield, it doesn't always work. And that's why the mud, and again, that's what you'd find out too, is that was his efforts genuine, or was he trying to manipulate, right?
Oui, monsieur, comment ça va? Parlez-vous français? And sorry, there was French overlay again. This happened to us 3 times today. For some reason, the stream keeps changing to French on us. It happened to us twice live there, Chris. Right at the beginning, they gave the English stream the French. And then halfway through this morning, there's another time they just switched to French.
I caught somebody in the comments saying something about they don't work well with French. Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. No, it's kind of annoying. I don't know if it's intentional. Is that ex-counselor Fleury? Because he's an ex-counselor now. Is that him pushing the French button over there or something? But twice now we've had the stream switch to French on us. And it was everybody. Just so everybody knows, everybody had that.
Wasn't just
Yeah, it's from the source. So that was my attempt to be funny. Throw some French in there. Oh, Ellen got it. I think Ellen got the joke. She got the joke. Let me go back to Goose's question, okay? We're having some excellent questions, so I do want to get to them. Goose, so why did the Convoy lawyer go after him if he is just as innocent? Because you'll find out in Tamara's testimony. What Brendan did was he set him up to be impeached, to be frank. All right. He set BJ up to be impeached, and he actually warned BJ at one time he was going to be impeached. And then BJ said, okay. What the Convoy or Brendan's trying to do, well, first, he's trying to clear the record, and get it as honest as he can from his perspective, from his clients. It doesn't mean it's the truth. It just means from his perspective for his clients. He's trying to clean up the record. And I do believe, as we mentioned in the chat here a few times, this particular message that he sent out is going to be something that they talk about. Because I believe Tamara's testimony around this particular message is that's going to be one of those moments that really change things from progressing well to so much confusion that it just started to tear everything apart. Because I think what Tamara is going to try and show is it really reflected bad on the entire group. Like internal director level now problems. It really, really messed up even their goodwill with the PLTs and everybody else. Because we heard the government of Canada emphasize a certain point, they believe that the Convoy leadership fell apart. And that's what they will point to. They'll point to this break, this message, this particular event as proof that the board itself fell apart. They're not as curious about the OPS's board falling apart, but they are very curious about the Convoy's board falling apart. So that's why I think Brendan was going after him. He was getting him to answer certain questions about permission and direction and I would say instruction too from the board on what he was allowed to put through Tamara's account, what he was instructed to put through Tamara's account, and what he should have known that he couldn't put through Tamara's account. We'll hear that on Tamara's side. So I think that's why that was the case. And we knew at the very first moment, Brendan was not going to be gentle with him because BJ was cordial, Brendan was not. So right at the beginning, BJ said something like, nice to meet you, along those lines, cordial. And then Brendan went straight to his first question. Didn't even acknowledge that. Setting the stage very early. This is not going to be a gentle handling of a witness. So I saw that coming right away. And I get it. They're setting up for the whole, because I really believe that message was key to the Convoy leadership showing weakness and division. And that was probably the first time that actually happened to that level. And that's why I think it's pivotal. And I do think Canada did point to that as proof that even they couldn't help us with the majority of truckers because their board's falling apart. I hope that's a good enough explanation, Goose. That is my opinion. So take it for what it's worth. I know Terry loves to challenge my opinions, and he should. He should always challenge all opinions that you don't like. But that is my opinion. Chris, do you want to throw anything in there?
Sure. Well, I think that's the key, right? Is like if I use empathy and I put myself there, and you've got this, what you think is a unified front when it comes to messaging, and what that would do to internal morale as well. Like it's, if you're not all on the same page and you put yourself, that's kind of one of those rules. If you put yourself ahead of the team, you're out.
Right.
Right. And I don't know, like, again, if he was sitting in his room and he's got a cast, is he, I don't know, painkillers or, there was a lack of judgment there, and I'm not going to ascribe motives, but to look at how that would have reverberated through the entire group.
Right.
A loss of trust would have occurred there. And I would have been questioning and been very concerned, even gone to the people. If you want me to stay around, this guy's got to go. Because if you want to reestablish trust, show the government that when a mistake is made, you deal with it. Right. And you acknowledge it. So you got to reset and someone has to fall. When a mistake is made, that's what we don't see with the Liberals, right? Everybody that there's never resignations. But before the pandemic, well, even anyways, I won't get too into that. But you have to take that stance, and I think that when you're looking at such a massive amount of people there, where you're trying to have that at least on a base level of agreement to certain things. When someone goes off on their own and does something, it's immeasurable, because you don't, unless you go to ask everybody, how did this impact you directly? Well, overall, the discussions and now the ability for them to create this narrative, I think you're right that he was setting them up, and Tamara is going to speak to that later.
Yeah.
I think that it's one of those things too, where she's in a situation, and I don't know her very well either, but I imagine, she became a beacon. And when that happens, everyone wants to talk to you, and you start feeling you have more of a responsibility. So you start taking more things on. And, in that kind of chaos, to have someone come out there and throw a huge curveball, it just, to me, is it's unfortunate that it happened. Again, whether there is a nefarious motive to it or not, it's not something that should have happened. And it could have been handled so much differently. I think that if there was more of a, let's keep this focused on the people we're here to serve, as opposed to what our personal agendas or goals through this may be. Step back and check yourself, right? And I just don't think that he had people around him that could do that.
Yeah, he was isolated. Like, they even left the hotel and left him by himself. Like him
exactly.
And
right left. With your and so you're left with your own thoughts, and you're thinking you might think you're doing the right thing by sending something out, but own it after. Own it completely. I made a mistake, and I'm sorry, and try to make amends internally, but you no longer get to have the keys to the car. Sorry.
Yeah, you send it grounded tomorrow, and she'll send it through. There'll be another gatekeeper.
Got to have a check. Yeah, always had some. I never had authority to do anything like that. It was always a there was a couple times, but again, still in this situation, when there's such a public spotlight, everything that's communicated should have an approval process to avoid problems.
And look, sometimes it happens. I got 3 moderators, and one accidentally deleted a fine message. It was an accidental. I delegated down some responsibility. There was an error. Let's move on, right? Let's just move on, and we just deal with it. But if one of my moderators just started deleting all the messages, well,
then you got a problem. Yeah,
you got to take action. One thing I actually just realized while you were talking was, okay, so we had BJ send out that counter message to Tamara about the deal for the city, moving everybody to Wellington. And I forgot, but yesterday we heard from Bridget. She also did that. So she took a picture of the message and then did a counter message. So BJ and Bridget both did a counter message to Tamara's "we're moving down to Wellington" message. Coordinated. I know that BJ and Bridget were friendly to each other, and we heard that. He was very talking highly about Bridget. Was that coordinated? Because both of these main original, like Bridget's the original, she's a founder. Okay. And then we got BJ, who was around for a long time. Both of them putting out counter messages to Tamara's "we're moving to Wellington. We have a deal with the city." Now we have ultra confusion. We have the Bridget faction. We have the BJ faction. We have the Tamara faction. We have the non-grouped factions, all wondering what the heck's going on. Who's the leader? Who's saying what? All at the same time. Fog of war, right?
But when the fog's created internally, you have a problem.
Yeah, and that's well, was it internal, like created internal, or it just had internal access? So whether or not BJ and Bridget were working behind the scenes, like mending his leg or something, maybe, I don't know. But he had internal access.
I think it's one of those things too. It's like it's almost like people forget that what they were doing, what their responsibility was, that there were tens of thousands of people, that there was, that how much every single eggshell, none of them could be cracked, right? Except for the ones that were thrown at people. But
and the marbles,
right? So it's one of those where it's so hard to, this is actually the hardest I've ever had to be able to say, okay, was this intentional undermining, or is this just trying to do the right thing? Are they caught up in the moment? Because it seems to me like a lot of people didn't understand what their role was and the responsibilities that came along with that. And that is understandable that may not have been communicated to everybody given that fog of war. And so when you don't have a united group, which I never thought is a good thing to have everybody, I agree with you in saying they should have been negotiating and talking to each individual group. They're all representing them. Yeah. So
assign a PLT to each one. There's a Farfado one. There's the main convoy one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so when you get to this point and you have two people that had, I thought it was funny that he's taking shots at Pat King's following like that. What
Oh
are we,
yeah, I
high
was going to
school?
mention how petty that is. That's so
High
petty.
school, like that's a huge insight into his psyche. But
Yeah,
anyways,
100%. Yeah, that and dropping the name of some captain in his bloodline, like I found through had it like I was adopted by birth people, like that's completely unnecessary. That to me is where I started going, huh? What is this guy all about? He's about labels and virtue. I'm about to find out. And you know
that's
what?
it.
He was.
Yeah, and when you pull it all back, again, it could be very simply people thinking, understanding. The more you know about what's going on and the fear, whatever, however far you want to go down the conspiracy theories, right? There's that. You pull it back to each individual and what their drive is, and I believe most of the people there, a large portion of them, had great intentions for what they wanted to see happen. They were all on board, but it did show that all it takes is a couple of people to go off the rails. I can imagine if there was any discussions with PLTs. And I got a call from one of them saying, "What's going on online? Like, what are you doing?" Right? Like, and so you're having to waste time to reestablish trust in a very highly tense situation. So I think that it's a lack of professionalism, at the very least, a lack of professionalism, and understanding of everything that you do affects other people. And if you don't, go ahead.
Sorry, it affects other people. Everything you do affects other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so if you don't have that check first, it's like I remember the first time I sent an email where I wish I could unsend it, and it never happened again, right? And so I think with them, I think that they didn't look at the possible repercussions, at least do some due diligence, pick up the phone and find out, okay, I wasn't in the meetings, but what's going on here, before you send out something that creates confusion and division, because what it did is create a divide in the movement, because you didn't know who to believe, who to trust, what was going on. And we're just lucky again that nothing happened that was detrimental.
Right.
So,
and let me remind everybody what a unified message is supposed to look like. And the convoy wasn't the only one that had that trouble. And let me remind you, OPS had to crack down on officers taking selfies.
mm-hmm.
Okay. So OPS officers were in the street taking selfies. So the OPS had to crack down to have a unified message that we are not supporting the protesters. We don't take a side, I guess, is the message they wanted. So right there, you have an organization who has members who are veering away from the collective message, and then they have to crack down on it. This was the same thing with BJ. It's just he had a lot more power to really change the messaging. Like an officer doing a picture, okay, I get it. You get enough of those, okay, I get it. But it wasn't slowly doing the pictures. It wasn't Bell doing the pictures. So if it was,
and I think Dictor has a fairly big following on social media. Well, not whatever you want to call fairly big. We can go back to that. But if
to me, everybody's huge right now. So to me, everybody's huge.
It's a matter of the level of impression and how many people have you on notifications, right? So when he was tweeting stuff in the heat of it, it was catching everything he tweeted. Was getting that kind of vibe. Big accounts were retweeting him and stuff. I wasn't too familiar with Bridget. I may have been involved with her account, but he was more of the driver of the social media narrative. One of the main
for sure.
ones,
and he had the tags, and he knew what tags to use, and a lot of
and he had his own account plus Tamara's, so he was able to use both followings to really kick a ball far, right? Like, and that's to me when that's the responsibility side of it, is when you know that you are going to, but if you want to delete this, it's already going to be out there, and you're going to have a few thousand, you know what I mean, screenshots and other stuff. So whether he jumped the gun and just didn't believe things were real, a lack of diligence, it's professionalism. Pick up the phone, because what you're about to do, you need to be like, okay, what if I'm wrong? What if this is right? Am I throwing that, lighting a fire where it doesn't need to be lit? And so I feel bad for him. I hope his book does well.
It should do well. And no, it should do. All of them. They have all of my books.
I would have waited until after the EA to write a book, because then that could be part 2.
For sure, you get a second book.
Yeah.
And one also thing I think BJ had going against him was his choice of advisors. So he used his mom and his brother as examples of a police officer and a paralegal who was giving him information, and then he was using that as his advisors. Like he said, my brother's a cop, therefore I understand how this stuff works. My mother's a paralegal, I understand how retainers works. But he's wrong. Being a director on the corporation, and the corporation that retains the lawyer, you don't even have to sign a thing. So he was actually wrong. That's not a bad thing, but that's a thing to be cautious about. Your advisors, the people you're turning to advise you as well. And in this case, his mother being a paralegal, I love paralegals. I am one.
Mhm.
She gave him, maybe he didn't have all the information that she needed to give some good advice. Then he ran with it. He's like, you're not supposed to talk to me. You're supposed to take instructions from me because a retainer is supposed to be done a certain way because my mommy said so. That's going to be tough to argue with a mature adult group. And then the brother one. My brother's a cop, therefore I know how cops are supposed to work. And I don't know who this French guy is, but my brother says this. Again, I guess you're only as good as your advisors. And if you're picking just family as advisors, and
That's a problem.
and you're not giving them all the candid information, because it's always going to be BJ's perspective and it's going to be his favorable perspective, you're setting yourself up for bad information, bad advising. Garbage in, garbage out is the term that we use a lot on that one. So if you're getting garbage advice in, you're going to get garbage actions out. And we're going to hear about that when Trudeau takes a stand, because he's going to do all the blaming on that one. That's exactly how he's going to say he came to his decision. So for BJ, look, I'm rooting for you a little bit there, but I think your advisors let you down. You should extend it outside of your family circle, because they're also very biased on trying to not upset you, because you got to show up at Christmas. So you really should be looking for more impartial advisors.
And to go back to the people you're working with once you've received that advice for a second sober thought, right? Like that's the thing about it is I think somebody mentioned there, right? Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah.
Not enough prep cooks, right? Everyone's wanting to cook the main course, and they may be able to cook that steak, but are they the best ones, right?
Yeah, and too many cooks with zero chefs. So there was no chef. So you actually didn't have anybody who was an expert in all of this. The closest you got was Keith Wilson and Dean French. But yeah,
which somebody could argue those are probably the two lenses you want, at least to be able to read the response, because it's all about what the reaction you're going to get from your actions. Right. I think that's the most important thing as far as the risk evaluation, as far as what do we do? What's the worst, hope for the best, plan for the worst. But if the worst case scenario is the triggering of this kind of divide,
right,
it's just not, it doesn't make any sense on the chessboard at all. It's very amateurish, to be honest.
Amateur is the right word. And that's unfortunate, because the government is talking like these guys should have been specialists and experts. But they're all
not calling Keith Wilson and Marazzo has an aspect of him that you could technically, as far as an amateur goes, when it comes to politics and stuff like that. But as far as his ability to speak clearly, concise, professional, he's very much what I expect from somebody who's been in the military as a captain.
Yeah, but I would give him a B, or maybe a B, because
B plus.
Well, you're nicer than I am. His choice of words sometimes aren't thought out, and his similes aren't thought out. Let me give you an example.
As far as what it would translate publicly, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And I'm just going to answer his question for what I don't know is staggering. He's next. Let's find out together.
I'll probably recognize him when I see him, but
James Bauer? Yeah. We'll find out a lot about him next. What you don't know is staggering. Sorry, where were we right there?
Just about the lens of having advisors, and if you had French and Keith Wilson with regards to who were the people that were talking for the lens there. I think we kind of finished it up though, so you can move on.
Yeah. No, I don't think BJ hurt the cause, because I think basically every single thing he said here had zero material relevance to the foundation of the evoking of the EA. I think what we got there was a lot of just drama and entertainment a bit. Unless, because remember, there's two people or two groups that are really important here. There's the Commission Council, okay, and their mission is to just find the truth. Let's just simplify it to find the truth. And then there's the Government of Canada. So in this chat, there was a couple questions around whether or not the Freedom Convoy or Freedom Corp is going to defend, or why aren't they bringing out certain information, and why aren't they bringing out certain stuff? Because it's up to the Government of Canada. It's not up to the Convoy to prove that there was other things that could have been done. It's not up to anybody actually in this entire inquiry to prove that the EA shouldn't have been used. The only question we have to prove here is the Government of Canada has to establish that they reached the threshold to use it. That's the party with the burden of proof on this. They have the burden. Nobody else has a burden, and that includes the convoy. They don't have a burden to defend themselves. They don't have a burden to prove that the convoy or the protest was peaceful. The government of Canada has a burden to prove that it wasn't, and they had no other options. So I want to kind of clarify that, because that's who has the burden in this. And that's why you're not going to see a whole whack of stuff out of the convoy defending their position. What they are doing is attacking what the government narrative is, because the government narrative is what the government built their foundation on. So you're going to see all parties that are not for the EA, so civil liberties, Canadian Constitution, all of them are attacking the narrative, because that's what the government will be left with at the end of the day. And if it's enough to sustain them as a foundation, that will be what the report says. But I see a lot more chipping of the narrative happening than rebuilding and growing. But then again, we have 3 more weeks of nothing but Canada government side. This will be the end of Convoy at the end of this week. So maybe that's where they're going to do it there, Chris. What do you think? Do you think there is a way to repair the foundation and build up all the way to the highest standard of our land? It's not even preponderance of evidence, which is a civil standard, 51%. Beyond all a reasonable doubt, which is a standard for criminal, let's just call it 99%. And then the highest standard of the land, there has to be zero question marks around whether or not it was proper. And Chris, I don't think they're even at preponderance. I don't think they're even going to get to 51%. It more likely than not, it was a good idea. So how are they going to get all the way to the top?
Well, it's impossible when you have even the RCMP chief saying there was no grounds, and that's surprising, right? And you have the OPP testimony. Like, that's where I think people are going to look back and again, it's helping to repair some of the reputation of our police forces is extremely important, even though we have a long way to go. But to see some of them come out there and say, no, there were still options on the table, so when you have that dialogue was still in play, there was actual movement. So I think what it comes down to is looking at good faith versus bad faith.
Right.
And when you look at, was there good faith dialogue occurring? Yes. Was there a quid pro quo as far as that we need this done by then? And trucks apparently were already being moved. So I think to be able to pull it back, they're left only in the realm of conspiracy theory, which means that what their options are, A, is to show the breakdown of communications, the inability to talk. Well, that's thrown out by previous testimony. No matter how much it devolves, does it rise to that threshold? Absolutely not. And so they have to create some kind of boogeyman, which you can kind of see the way that they're being very selective with one piece of evidence here with the WEF, a couple of videos here with regards to Diagolon. It'll be interesting to see where that goes. And to this point, when I look at all a meme is all I've seen, but that does not mean that we aren't going to see something in those 3 weeks. It's like, wait a second, like we don't know what else what was going on, what people were doing.
Right.
And so if they do have something, it's even still then, would it reach the threshold if there was a legitimate thing happening? Like, they put Freeland's email. Go ahead.
Yeah. Here's my question about that. So let's just say there is a secret issue. We'll call it secret issue A.
Yeah.
And we'll never hear about it. And let's say it was very justifiable and there's no question that it was absolutely necessary. Well, why are they using the EA on the protesters then? Because the protesters are issue number 2. So how was issue number 1 related to issue number 2 that you needed to use the force on issue number 2 to solve issue
everybody?
Number 1?
Exactly. As opposed to surgical. It doesn't. Right. There's no argument.
I'm giving them a ton of benefit there, saying, well, what if, country X said this, we had the credible proof, there was no doubt, MI5, the Five Eyes, everybody agreed completely, way more agreement on this than anything else in the history of humans. Even if that's 100% true, how does that then take the step to Ottawa and these protesters?
To a national emergency. Right.
Right. And then to make everybody understand, the government cannot hide behind privy as a justification for the Emergencies Act. It's not allowed. They may be able to hide under privy on details, how they got information, yada, yada, but they have to clearly articulate the connection. They have to give the justification. Now, when this was written, the original one, the Emergencies Act, War Measures Act, when this was written, it wasn't anticipated that it would be so hard to understand that we're at war. When they wrote this, it was pretty clear that, like, guys, we're talking about like maybe the Germans hitting the borders here. It would have been pretty clear. So they didn't really work in this whole privy issue because that's not what it was for. It would have been a very obvious physical happening now, we have no choice event. That's why war was in the title. And then in the 80s, they took the war title out, added the couple terms, and I believe the inquiry was added to that one. That's what caused this day to happen, because there was a question mark in the 80s when it was used. That's why we have the inquiry as part of it now. So look, it's supposed to be for more war measures. It was meant to be pretty self-explanatory. It wasn't meant to have these kind of issues have to be discussed, because they thought it was pretty clear what war is. But I can tell you, privy is not allowed to happen. They have to justify it, and they have to justify it in this inquiry, not later. So whatever's coming out in the next bit, half of them are security, police, and privy witnesses from the government, and some of it is in camera, so we're not going to get it. But I'm going to be there in Ottawa during those particular days, so I'll be there from the 12th to 13th. We're getting all that going. So during all this privy, security, secret, and camera stuff, I'm going to be sleuthing around, trying to find out whatever I can find out, and then reporting back to you. Because quite frankly, they do have to publicly give the justification. They don't have to publicly give up privy information.
No.
But they would have to come out and say, we had credible information that this particular event was happening. For example, I got to be careful because I don't want them to clip this, but we found something that wasn't fun underneath a tunnel.
Right.
Okay. And they don't have to tell us where it came from, what it was, did it have radioactive or anything like that. They don't have to go to those levels, but they do have to say, we found this group, 5 people. You're going to see them in a trial later. We found something underneath, looked really bad, whatever. And then they can kind of make the connections of why they needed DEA to address it. Why don't you just, shoot them with the army or something? But right now, they're going to have to still make that step, even if they put that out there. They're going to have to show how we had no other way to deal with it.
No other way. That's the key, and that's why the police testimony is it just cut right through them. As far as I think everyone pretty much said that there was still options. We didn't think it was needed, right?
Options. I talked about it in the last break. Even the army was an option if it was a real issue that required the EA. Our armed forces would have been an option. And they wouldn't have hesitated if it was a genuine enemy. But it wasn't. It was legally protesting Canadians. So they had to not do anything.
I think they were told by certain people to get this to stop.
Order alert.
It was just growing.
They were asked and they denied it. They declined to assist.
The commission is reconvened.
So were you guys having fun in the chat there? I come back and just full of chat. I have no idea what you guys are talking about yet. I think I kind of caught up in the middle of it. I saw the thing where's Jason? I thought I would let you know. Some of you know I'm off grid. I live in a fifth wheel right now. We don't have a house. We're going to be building it, do most of it by hand. That'll be next year, God willing. We get everything squared away. Wood prices, a whole bunch of things got pretty squirrely the last couple of years, as you know. But yeah, so we're in a fifth wheel, and then we also have a 70-foot by 30-foot structure. You can put your trailers and stuff in there. So we tuck the trailer into there for the winter. We got lots of heat. We got lots of shelter. So that's what I was doing. I got a whole whack of friends here to help me out, but they're letting me do a lot of this while they take care of stuff. But they needed me to do all the backing up. So I have to back up the trailer. It's a very tight fit. It's all done. We're good. We're in. So I came running right back. Tamara's been amazing, but you have all been amazing too. This chat is active. You guys are all over the Canada. Jim, I'm not sure if you're still here, but you asked me if these were all my Ontario friends. What he's referring to is I'm from Ontario. Like I moved here last year from Ontario. So I guess he thought you were all people I already knew. No, Jim. This is what organic grassroots looks like. I'm just posting videos. I'm talking to people. I'm interacting with them. We're chatting, and it's growing. So, Jim, one day we should chat about grassroots efforts, and I'll show you how I did this. I think you'd be interested. Hey. So what are you guys talking about? I see knockers and stuff like that. I think I know where you're headed, but I don't know what you're talking about yet. It's pretty interesting, this testimony from Tamara. Her story about her grandmother sucked for me because I couldn't visit mine either. She's still with us, but she's physically with us. She's physically with us. And I couldn't go see her. I drove right past when I crossed Canada. I was in Eastern Ontario, and she's over in Rainy River, which is southwestern Ontario, like right by the Manitoba U.S. Ontario border, that little corner down there that nobody talks about. My grandma's there, and she couldn't have visitors. And yeah, so as we moved the family across. So really sorry, Tamara, about your grandma, your story there. Lots of us related to that. We know. We couldn't get to all of our loved ones. We heard stories. We saw the videos. It's Tamara. There wasn't a dry eye in my chat, right? Railroad. Stunt. None of us went through that one well. Oof. A little dark, a little deep. But boy, has she been holding up well. We're still in the commission questions. I don't think she's going to be facing some real harsh cross, except for maybe Paul Champ. I don't. He may send up the other lawyer. We saw her this morning. Let me get her name because she deserves some credit. She did a good job. Paul Champ is working with Christine Johnson, and Christine, she did a good job. She went up there. We might see her again for tomorrow. I don't know if Paul will get up there again today. I don't know if he should stay there. Paul, you did some bad things. It was me, feck, blame. 420 again. Where is the 420? Oh, it's 420 here. Cool. One thing Justin gave people, maybe that was a way to, calm people down or chill or distract. I don't know. He brought that to the table. All right, knock, knock, knock on heaven's door. You guys are awesome. I am too rural home to, yeah, us too. We had to drive into town for Halloween. And when you're in a small town, the community center is where everybody goes. And it's great. I'll get together, walk around. They did a great haunted house in Breton. I know I have at least one Breton viewer. So, hey, yeah, it was a great haunted house. I do have knockers. I'm going to assume you guys are enjoying the chat. I don't think those are door knockers you're talking about there. FaceTime. Who are you FaceTiming with? So yeah. So you guys enjoying tomorrow? Are you getting any new information? It's not really including BJ, not in the founders or leaders or supporters, or she wasn't including BJ, and even though BJ was a director. Did I miss his name? I think at one point we were waiting for it and it didn't come up. Talking a bit about Pat, she's not being petty like BJ wasn't focusing in on his social scores and stuff like that, focusing in more on, the behavior we all saw, the attitude we all saw. And again, a prickly, abrasive attitude is not a bad thing. If we were all super soft, we couldn't get things done. So no, I think she treated Pat quite well. She was kind of fair and honest. At least from her opinion, right? Remember, these are her opinions. This doesn't make Pat that way, or doesn't make her correct. But it seemed like she was trying to be fair. A lot of talk around the finance committee trying to do things right. $1 million. A lot of people come around. A lot of people come around all of a sudden. $10 million. She's 100% true. For those of you that were around a few days ago when I talked about why I went to law school, this is the reason. Yes, success will bring weird people around where you least expect it. People that loved you forever or you thought will do weird things. Money does a lot of weird things. So she's 100% right. She would definitely have vultures around her. So yeah, I kind of related with some of that. Not to her numbers. Like her numbers that's a lot of money. But yeah, money makes people do really weird things. I wasn't pulling a Karen. Kelly, I'm sure you're not a Karen. I'm sure you're not a Karen. So must be in a misunderstanding. Uh-oh, Dad's back. Oh, is that when I come back? I'm Dad. Come on. I got two wonderful little kids. You've seen some of them. Yeah, I am a dad, but I'm certainly not your dad. I'm your bud. All right. And Jay works too. So if you guys want to call me Jay, that works too. We love you, Kelly. For sure. Kelly's awesome. Kelly's awesome. And remember, tomorrow night, if you guys are interested, tomorrow night, Friday, end of week, we'll do the Brady Bunch thing. So I'll throw out the link, and anybody that wants to come in, show your face, don't show your face, talk, say hi. But let's try that. Let's see what it looks like, see what kind of fun we can have. But the idea is to let's just let's chat. We've all been typing all week. Let's spend about an hour and just talk. Don't be shy. We're already friends. Moving to fifth wheel. Oh, that's me. I read the message and then I go to the person. So sometimes I do that. Chump will be asking, what were those inflammatory, controversial things said by King? For sure. And he's going to bring it back. I don't think, John, I would be a little surprised if we see Chump today. We might see Christine for tomorrow. But if it's Chump, I'm definitely going to get in there. But he's had a bad couple days. So everybody has their limit, even aggressive lawyers. Back there until, it can be expensive if you don't cut it right. And, we got a well in there. There's a lot of things to navigate around. We got it in there. It's fine. It took a lot of time. Chump, I think he should leave too. I think one of the prerequisites for standing up at the podium is integrity. Just saying, Paul, you really should. I really think you should do an apology to the commission. You don't have to apologize to a witness or anything like that. But Paul, you should apologize to the commission. You should respect the commission. You should treat it with honor. And I think you should do that. Again, you don't have to hat in hand to a witness or lawyer or even the commissioner himself. But you should apologize to the commission. Just saying. It's funny. Yeah. Welcome back, Jason. Well, thank you very much. Peace on earth. Nice to see you. And let's try and get there. Peace on earth. Good timing. I came back, so I just walked in right when you're all throwing a little party behind my back type of thing. It looks like fun. But nothing's erased on the internet, folks, so I will go through and see it. You are all awesome. Oh, no, a break. We're in such trouble. Oh, because, Ellen, you're having fun. Hey, Jim, you're still here. I can see that. You're in the chat. You're in the chat. So, Jim, how did you like that? You met a whole whack of people, a bunch of people, chatty group. We're watching inquiry together. Canada is interested in our government, their actions, accountability. We're interested in all of that. Some of us are demanding it, Jim. So, yeah, let's represent Yellowhead. Okay, bud? Oktoberfest. Are you all down for, Stunt and others doing some sort of artwork, music, horns, play O Canada, be like a Big Ben every hour on the hour, call it the Little Ben, call it whatever. I can't see the left tackling hard on an art installation. That's culture, isn't it? Shouldn't we have some of our own culture there, Stunt? Just saying, every capital could have one. You can't say it's an attack on Ottawa if every capital has one, because we're actually annoyed with provincial leaders too, aren't we? I know I'm annoyed with Ford, even though I'm not there. And I know even Alberta has got some warts and bumps and bruises too. The same. Sorry, Wayne, I thought it's funny. Tamara's amazing. She is, Wayne. And she was worth staying up for. Well, it's not so late for you, but thanks for being here, Wayne. The world cares, Canada. Parents wanted a boy. Northwest. Oh, cool. You guys are so much fun. Charlie, what are you saying? Image not allowed to have funerals. Imagine not allowed to have funerals. Remember that? There was a funeral and Barack went to it. Everybody went to it right in the middle too. John McCain. I think it was John McCain's funeral. Could have been. There was somebody like that, John McCain or such, right in the middle when we couldn't do our grandmas and stuff. They did that one. Let us not forget. They had their own rules. Actually, do they even have rules? 10th? You know what I mean, 10th. Do they even have rules? So when I say they have their own rules, is that even accurate? They have rules for us. What flips my stomach is feeling relieved. I've already lost. Oh, it sucks to feel that way, but they didn't. I see where you're coming from, Ellen. Yeah, my mother, she passed young and early before COVID. And she probably would have struggled with this. She was a very social person and she would not have liked to have been isolated. Look, Ellen, that's a silver lining. I think it's beautiful what you've done there. And we get to remember them one more time, right, Ellen? Hospitals for understaffed, so much messes, so many messes. And then we make partnerships with the WEF in Alberta. Is that going to help any? There's noise in my ear, so I'll bring it back to you. Wayne, yeah, nicknames can be elusive to gender. It can be. And in Railroad, it doesn't matter. It was just, I felt like you were like, I don't even know what to say. Like, I can't even say why I was surprised. Maybe I have to examine that one. But I'm pleased. So it's not like a displeasure. I'm pleased. I'm pleased that I have all people here. Maybe that's where I'm coming from. Maybe I wasn't expecting to attract all people. I'm just really glad you're here. Roaded. Michigan, right on. You're back, Sandy. Yep. And we did a lot of chatting about the auto industry with you and stuff in the chat. Welcome back. I couldn't see your Canadian family. Damn it, Sandy. I'm sorry. Technically, yeah, you're American. Are you American? Are you both? If you're both, you technically could have. They shouldn't have stopped you. Ontario here couldn't see U.S. family. Look at that. Peace on earth and Sandy. You go to the border and share some stories. And yell across the border. You both had the same problem. That's sad. That's sad. And by the way, for those that didn't know, the east of Canada, there was a bubble there. I think PEI, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. There was a bubble there.
Order a lot.
Where you couldn't even go provincially.
Order a lot.
All right, Jim. We're back. And Jim, of course you did.
The commission is reconvened. La commission reprend.
How was that for you all? Make sure that the mute is off. It's off. Whoa! So we're going to be doing this tomorrow with Tamara. We'll do the crosses with her tomorrow. I thought they were actually going to go all day. A little surprised. Kind of happy. I got things to get done. Hey, Railroad, I know we were trying to schedule to do something tonight. They need me to go hook up the power. Kids need power. So I'm going to do a bit of a recap here, and then we will deal with that. We're all going to hang out tomorrow. We'll do the Brady Bunch. Somebody's going to be in this corner. Someone will be over here. Someone over here. All that. Only 9 of you will be able to join me. So I only have up to 10 seats. But if someone drops, someone else can come back in. We'll see what we can do with that. So we got a lot of testimony, heartbreaking, tear-jerking. But there was also some, and you guys noticed, she seemed pretty polished. She seemed really ready. Very big difference between her and Pat King. So clearly, Tamara had, a legal team working with her. Some of you were talking about she's acting like she doesn't know what she's doing or something like that. She might be, because Tamara's a very bright lady. There's nothing basic or simple about her. She's a very bright lady. She's on the board. She's an advocate. She does protesting. She was part of a lot of things. So, this is also why she was recruited or reached out to, because of her past. So she is no spring chicken. That's what I'm trying to get at. She's no spring chicken. So if anybody was kind of looking at Tamara like she was just an amateur, it was like her first rodeo. No, not really. Not really. She does have a history. They didn't just pick her out of the phone book. She's done lots of good work. Lots of that stuff. So, some of you were feeling like she sounds like a mayor. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. She sounds very polished and calculated. She does have a lot of reasons to be very careful up there. Paul Champ lawsuit is one. The mischief charges, as we heard about, she still hasn't received the details. That's very odd, by the way, folks. I'm sure her lawyer is working on it. Disclosure has to happen, especially in criminal. Every piece of evidence, you get it all. Are they just waiting for this inquiry to be done and then lift the charges? What are they doing with that? Denise, there definitely were planes. I had some pilot friends, and it was all the buzz. North Bay, an airport. It's one of the bigger ones in that area. We've flown into it. We've landed there. Quite the buzz. A lot of people took I don't want to say a lot of people. I know at least 2 people took pictures. But it was odd. I think there was a news story that said it was there for repairs. That's not where they do repairs. Bombardier is in the Montreal area. It's west of Montreal. Laval, something like that. Bombardier is over there. They're not North Bay. And that's where our airplane manufacturing is, and that's where their repairs go. I don't know if they're Bombardier airplanes or if they're Boeing or what, but North Bay is not known as an international hub for repairing airplanes. So, just putting that out there. Held the line. Okay, so you guys are killing me when it comes to these messages. There's so many. So many. Let me go to some of the starred ones. I did pull out some. This is a great question. So Mr. Green was asking, what would protesting be like after this? What do I think might happen? Mr. Green, I hope I answered your question. What I genuinely think is going to happen is this report that comes out of this commission is going to have several recommendations. A lot of them around the national safety, national security, national police, national intelligence, national, something along those lines. We'll be seeing that. I also think we're going to be seeing some recommendations around protesting going forward. Some boundaries, some limits, that kind of thing. Again, these are recommendations. They don't become law. They're just recommendations. But I think there are going to be recommendations for both sides. For example, government should have had PLT or some sort of way to connect and initiate conversation. Protesters, I think there's going to be a limit on innocent victims. They're going to word it in such a way that innocent people, because you're protesting against the government, not in the residential areas. So you might find something new as a recommendation around limiting innocent bystanders. What do you want to call them? I don't know what the name is. They're going to have to come up with a name. But what they're going to probably try and get us to do is to realize there's no limits on how you protest, but there might be some limits on where you protest. That's might what we get out of this. I know that there's some countries and they did that and they ended up putting the protesting area, the legal protesting area, like nowhere near the government, and pretty ineffective. But also what I told Mr. Green, what I think will happen is both sides will just completely ignore it. So even if they come out with these recommendations, the very next protest, both sides will ignore it. So I don't really think we're going to have lessons learned from this going forward because we'll just ignore it. Right? Because again, nobody was hurt. It's going to be hard for people to really accept any modifications to our protesting when we did nothing wrong. So I don't think people will just follow the recommendation. So Mr. Green, what I think will happen is there'll be some, but nobody will follow it. The government nor the protester. Hope that did answer your question. What was this one? Yeah, you're also talking about this, Mr. Green. I hope doesn't shut down most protests because of division. I don't think protests will be shut down. So I do think, and I also think there's going to be a part 2. And I think the part 2 is going to be very similar, but maybe without the horns so much. I don't know. It's going to be very similar, but I don't know how it will look. But no, Mr. Green, we're going to protest a lot. There's a lot of government overreach, every level. And there's a lot of reasons for First Nations to continue to protest. So there is no way that Canada will stop protesting. What I do hope is the world's watching and they're going to see what we do with this. Are we going to come out and try and strip the rights and make it worse for Canadians? Or are we going to fight back and show people that the people actually run the country? We're going to see. I'm very optimistic that we're not going to lose any. I don't think there's going to be new rules or laws around protesting out of this. Because again, nothing was illegal. It was totally legal. But maybe the city might be prepared more next time. Maybe they'll have some barriers that can pop out of the ground. You know, you see those in some major cities where they have a big post that come out of the ground to close off and barricade around infrastructure. You might see them do that. You might see them never let trucks do that again. You might see that. But not much more. Not much more because it wasn't illegal. Yeah, so, Mr. Green, I think I've tackled that subject now for you. Okay, so this was another good one from Terry. Does it matter, Terry, for the EA that there's infighting? let's just play this out. Let's say they're the worst organized group. There was even corruption and theft going on. There was backstabbing. There was affairs. There's adultery, like everything, all the ugly stuff you can think of going on. And let's say that's all true. So that's not the standard for the EA. So how do we go from there to the EA? What are the dots here, Terry? Let's just say there's a ton of infighting. Let's just say it was really gross. It's not what we're hearing. We're certainly hearing pretty normal, pretty regular growing pains for any organization. We're hearing pretty normal stuff there. But let's just say it was really horrible. So what? That is not what the EA is for. That's what civil laws are for. That's what criminal laws are for. That's what security laws are for. If board of directors are doing things, there's laws around that. The Bulk Sales Act. We got a whole bunch of business acts all over the place. Provincial. There's plenty and plenty and plenty of laws to have dealt with anything, assuming that that was the case. Still not EA-able. Now remember, EA means no options left, like none. And you're under a serious national attack. Got to be national. That's why we have provincial EAs. Still not there, Terry. There we go. Sorry. Yeah, it's kind of my point there. Stunt, boy. Stunt, I just met you, man, and you got me with this one. This is why I started. So I want to talk to you about it. I'm sorry. I am sorry. I think everybody in this chat, if they could hug you right now, give you a big bear hug, right? They would give you one right now. Not the Paul Champ version of trucks hugging. Is a hugging meant to cause pressure? On who? On who? Great question. On who? Cause pressure on who there, Paul? But no, Stunt, we want to give you a real big hug, bud. Can't wait to meet you. Can't wait to meet you. And here's another one. Yeah, Stunt, this should be a slogan. Cops brought guns to an air horn fight. Yep, 100%. 100%. That's a great way to look at it, Stunt. And we got another one here from Stunt. Stunt, you're just on fire today. You got 3 stars. Terry got some. Mr. Green got some. Great job, all of you. The cops. I just started again. And yeah, that is the reason. Okay, you guys were prepared to stay, but you're not dumb. Okay, you're not dumb. And hey, look, I kind of sort of think strategically pulling the EA was a big, huge mistake because we got today. We get to sit here and go through the stuff today. That wouldn't have been possible without the EA. I'm not glad that the EA was done, but if you're going to silver lining this, a lot of people are very uncomfortable about what they have to go through and what they have to tell us and what they have to give up and what may come down. There's a lot of nervous people that are involved in this. They're still not sure what will happen. Well, let's keep disclosure going. Let's get all this data. Let's get all these files and take a look and keep going. I wouldn't be surprised if the OPP opened an investigation after this, especially around that report, that proposal making all the way to cabinet and being struck down. They might look into some of this. And the OPP is not asking a lot of questions of anybody right now of the convoy because, like, we knew they were well abreast of what was going on, so there's no questions to ask. But I wouldn't be surprised if the OPP did some sort of investigation around this. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, so I'm going to jump to your comments and see what we got here. Dave Taylor, you're someone new. She had her eyes. Yeah, no, she was definitely prepared and ready. Oh, what I really liked was James. James is a very good witness. Okay, James, I think, is the best witness we've seen so far. Why do I say that? Because he was very good at getting the information and testimony and evidence in, even though the lawyer wasn't trying to. There was a couple of times where a document came on the screen, and then he just started reading it. And lawyers really can't interrupt so much. They really can't interrupt so much. Maybe if they object to it, maybe there's a valid reason to object to it, they will. But, you know, when the guy's reading a piece of paper you put in front of him, be careful what you put in front of him. You may not want him to read it. He was very smart at doing that. I saw him do that several times where he would read out something or definitely expand a lot better. He was a very good witness. I thought he was a good witness. What do you guys think? You think James did a good job? Good night, Jeremy. You have yourself a great night. We'll see you tomorrow, 9 Eastern, and then we'll stick late and do the Brady Bunch. Railroad, if you can get up earlier, maybe we can meet early before the stream. Could be tough. Or just poke around, and maybe we'll just figure it out on the fly. If you find that invite, log in. We'll work that out, okay? And just so you know what we're doing there, everybody, Railroad, she's going to help me be a co-host. It's called co-hosting. I don't think you're going to see her on the video. I don't. If you want to, Railroad, you can do that. But she has high-speed internet. She has the grid. She has a better stable. So we'll maybe get her having the stream, host the stream. So if I lose things here, you just lose my mug. You don't lose the stream. We might play around with that, see if we can make that work. Okay, Railroad, we're basically creating a studio. You're an executive producer. How's that sound? Night, Denise. Take care, Ellen. Ellen, lots of great stuff today, too, from you. Thank you for all that. We like to attract those bots, huh? But Railroad's all over those. That was done over Feelings Prairie. Yeah, there's a lot of feelings today, wasn't there? A lot of feelings today. Did all three cry? I know James, of course, Tamara did. BJ? Did BJ break down, guys? I don't remember. I don't think so. I think he was more witty and more petty, rude, sharp, funny. He was more that than he was emotional. Yeah, good night. Good night, Denise. Good night, everybody. Eleanor, I think I've seen you once before. There you go. Love you so much. I just learned what that is. Hugs and honks for stunt. Hugs, honks, stunt. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. We all, and that's unfortunate, we all have someone close or just an arm's length. We were all touched by this one dramatically. So thank you for sharing, stunt. Big hugs for you. Bear hug 3.0 for stunt. We'll all get together. Prediction. JT apologized for prematurely invoking it after the commission findings come out. He says he won't do it again and needs to be more transparent. So Azario, friggin' cool. So whatever you're smoking, share it with a lot of people here. Okay? Because you must be. If you actually think he's going to stand up and apologize. His mother herself couldn't get him to do that in this situation. I guarantee you. The only apology Canada is going to get will be from another prime minister in the future. That's how this one will work. There's no way JT is going to do it. But look, Azario, I love where you're headed with that, because that would help Canada. If we really want to stop the division and unity, that would be a great step forward. It won't save his career. Okay, it won't save his career, but it will help Canada. And that's why I don't think he'll do it, Azario, just for that simple reason. Not that he's against Canada. He is for the agenda. And the agenda has control moving up, not down. Okay. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to move the government overreach, get rid of it. That means putting the control back down to the people. So on that front alone, his agenda just doesn't jive with a unity of Canada. So on that front, I think, Azario, if I'm wrong, you want me to take some bites out of the hat, I would gladly do that, because that means more unity. But I don't think I'm going to be wrong there, bud. John, UN planes in North Bay are kept there for Canada UN mission. They're not always there, John. John, they're not always there. They're not always there. It was a big shock to everybody that flew out of that airport that 2 UN planes were there. So, John, I'm not sure where you're getting that info. I'd love for you to share it. But nobody saw them there before. So why North Bay? There's plenty of airports around Ottawa. Why North Bay? That's quite the drive if you're doing business in Ottawa. But anyways, John, maybe you know something we don't know. But I do have pilot friends there, and there's a flight school there, and that was not normal for those UN planes to be there. They were all buzzing. They were all excited to see it. It wasn't normal. I'm not saying you're wrong. Please understand that, John. But you're kind of implying that Canada has already some UN planes for Canada's missions. They don't keep those in North Bay. So that was odd. I just can't imagine. Yeah, of course no, Ellen. I'm with you, Ellen, on that one. I can imagine it because we've seen it so many times. Blackface number 1, blackface number 2. I think he did some sort of elbowing of an MP, something rude like that. He bumped her and had to apologize for that. And then there's all the other things he apologized for. I can imagine him apologizing, but not for this. Not for this at all. Can Turner do be held accountable as control of the House? Yes, Slayer. And yes, he also can be held accountable now. Okay. But he's not going to. It's Liberal and NDP. He's not going to. And any accountability that will come out of the 45th Parliament will start with an investigation inquiry. We'll have to get to the bottom of it, see if there's charges, and then take it to RCMP or have them criminal if they're criminal. But the answer is yeah, and this House can do it too. They just won't do it. Not a chance. My concern here, Slayer, is that the CPC and the Liberal Party, the original red and blue, they don't fight face to face, in my opinion. They fight back to back because their biggest enemy is truly a third party or independents getting power, because that's really the only way to kind of expose and challenge them. They don't want either one of them to lose because they just swap. Right? You have a government and you have a government in waiting. That's it. You can call them opposition. You can call them a minority government. You can call them a majority government. Call them whatever you want. But we have a government and a government in waiting. Third parties and independents, that's who their enemy is. And that's why they fight so hard against independents even being there. So accountability, I think if we have some independents in there, it will be a lot easier and a lot more effective for Pierre to kind of allow the independents to go in there and go for the jugular, because that's what's needed here. I'm not saying that's going to kill the Liberal Party per se, like the party will probably still survive that, but at least there will be true accountability, nonpartisan, because that will mess it up. If it's just CPC going for accountability, it'll just be called partisan. It'll be a monkey show. Nobody will believe it. At least there'll be some more credibility if independents go in there, because they're not party affiliated. So they're just going in there for the truth. Much like the Commission Council, they're just going for the truth. That's what an independent would be like. So you want Trudeau to be held accountable and you want the other people to be held accountable that should be held accountable. Change it to conservative and put some independents in. And the 45th will be able to do something about it. Yeah, they pulled the chain too early. Not sure that's reference to James. I kind of remember. Maybe you can refresh me. Maybe this will. There will be so much more unrest next time. You mean with the people? You mean with the people? There'll be more unrest? I think what will happen is we'll just have a lot more video of people being even a lot more peaceful this time around too. That's what I think you'll see, because it's going to be even harder then for them to even do anything. The more that you don't give them what they need in order to stomp on you, yeah, that's it. They didn't even have anything this time, and look how far they went. So I don't know about more unrest, but I would like to see it larger. Maybe every capital, maybe every large city will do it this time. Maybe it's not just federal. Maybe we actually realize it's federal and provincial. Provincial can fight back. Provincial's got the healthcare. Why are they not fighting back to control healthcare? So we can do all of them. Every capital. Thinking about it, guys. Doug Ford. Hey, Jim. Doug Ford would be fun to watch. Yeah. So here's the thing, Jim. You know he's fighting it. We should have, I think, a decision. Prairie's around here. Prairie knows. I think Prairie, you found it was on the 8th that we should have a decision, and then he'll be arriving on the 9th, something like that. Jim, I don't think he's going to be successful at quashing the subpoena. If the Prime Minister has to be there, Premier has to be there. Alberta's there. Okay, Alberta's there. Saskatchewan's there. Manitoba's there. Ontario, you need to be there. What's this stuff about FBI being here at the time? Really? Did that come out in the testimony? Because again, I was moving some stuff. I did have her in my ear, but did something come out about the FBI? If they were here, it would have been around working with the U.S., of course, their intelligence, of course. Surprised it's not CIA, though. Isn't CIA meant to be external to the U.S. and FBI is internal? Maybe the FBI was here to try and feed them some Jan 6, some intel. Maybe that's where they were getting their foreign influence information from. it's not unheard of that another jurisdiction will show up and participate in an investigation or provide intel. It's not unheard of. What would really upset me, though, is U.S. Army boots on our ground. And we came close. Michigan offered it. I think they offered the National Guard. Of course, we didn't take it, but they offered it. Independent journalist, tell Trudeau the EA he should have invoked was emotional anonymous. You're awesome. Yeah. Oh, geez. That dude had to question whether or not he's going to show up. I don't know. Will he get COVID again? If somebody honks a horn, he might run away. I don't think there's a way for him to get out of it now. It's announced, confirmed. He's on the list. Now it would be really, really, really bad. And he's an optics guy, of course. So that would be something that I think he would avoid. Went off the tracks for the government when the protesters were not 100%. Listen, Dale. Listen. If we want to do look, there's no tinfoil in here right now. But if you wanted to go down that road, it was something they were provoking the entire time. That's why he called them names on Francais. That's why he did all that. It was a provocation. They were looking for their Jan 6 because that would lead to more repressive, totalitarian type of laws. And why would it lead to that? Well, because a large portion of Canadians would accept it. Guarantee you, 80% of Canada would have said, "Yep, let's crack down on some more laws because we saw violence in our parliament." If that would have happened, I guarantee you, Dale, Canadians would have supported it. Not me, but there's a large group, highly dense areas, the GTA, the Montreal, the Quebec, all of them. They would have supported it. Good one, Jeremy. Jeremy's awesome, isn't he? 10-4. No one will be on video. Just admin support. Oh, so you're not going to be on video. I will take admin support. That's bloody awesome. And then Railroad will do things like when I'm in Ottawa, like if I'm not around or I have to fill a gap, we'll do a video or I might pre-record and then get you to play it or something along those lines. But Railroaded, your executive producer. There'll be one credit at the end of my show. Railroaded. That's it. That's all we need, right? And Jim, good night, Jason. Howdy to your peeps. Well, not my peeps. They're Canada. Jim, these aren't my peeps. This is Canada. We're just getting friendly. We're hanging out. Glad they keep coming back. Coast to coast. We have New Brunswick. I believe 10th said he's in New Brunswick. We have BC. We have Manitoba. Lots of Alberta. Saskatchewan. Plenty of Ontario. We got a lot of people in this chat from across Canada, Jim. And we actually have several Yellowhead people in Twitter now. So, Jim, we should talk. I meant the EA was used over feelings. You're 100% right. Well, I still think the EA was part of a plan, guys. I still really do think that several governments that had, I don't know, maybe they graduated from a global leaders program, something like that. Maybe something like that. An old camp. Maybe they were all hanging out somewhere. All of those countries did very similar things. Okay. Did you guys pay attention to what happened in Australia and New Zealand? It was brutal. It was even worse than some of the Canadian stuff. Like we had some bad stuff here too. But Australia had a lot more of that really aggressive police actions over a more prolonged period of time in multiple events. So that sucks. New Zealand was having problems. Okay. UK, France, Netherlands, us, US, all having similar issues leading to similar outbursts. US went, US could have went way more violent than they did there. We know that. And so, that was a peaceful protest for US standards. And then Canada had a peaceful one for Canadian standards. And we haven't had a major revolt. Yeah, even Iran wasn't super violent, was it? They were cutting hair. Anyways, something's going on, right? There's a whole bunch of countries doing the same thing. Hugs for Stint, you got it, Azario, for sure. And he's a great dude. Great dude. Committed himself to Canada. It's clear. Prairie, good night, everyone. Take care, Prairie. Take care. Hey, Clay. Good night, man. Yeah, Jeremy, you'll like Jim. Jim's a good dude. Very good dude. A very smart dude, too. Taylor, totally agree. Prairie, good night. Ellen, I'll go with John on that one. What's John up to? What's John up to? Maybe something I said. Okay. again, I'm hoping that you guys you like 80-90% of what I got. I don't think I'm going to be 100% for everybody, but we should still be able to work through a lot of issues, even though we don't fully agree of everything. We have enough overlap. Will the question of the UN being used come up? I doubt it. Like, there's a whole whack of questions that we have, but none of them are material to the EA. Like him using resources and stuff like that. That's not going to be material. That will come out in another trial or another inquiry, though. That will come out later. Again, I still think this inquiry is just the beginning step. Once this is done in a few weeks, this is just one big step in the entire process to get accountability for everything that happened. I personally have, I think it's three videos now where I've identified somebody that I want to speak to. I want to speak to them, and then have them charged. Yeah, I have some targets. I have some questions. Get me the MP power. I can subpoena them, find out who they are, go into records. I can get into privy stuff. We need to do that. Night, whoever's leaving. Oh, yeah, that means you're sticking around, Alan. Hang with me. Jeremy. That's cool. I don't have the emojicons or whatever here in this program, emojicons, but it's really neat. Maybe I should jump into YouTube from time to time and do that. Man started people inquiry into the Rona. Yes, that's right. Preston Manning. Okay, yes. Thank you, James, for reminding me of that. Yes, Preston Manning has initiated an inquiry, or he's either started, asked for, or it's going to happen. One of those. But yes, Preston Manning. And just for you all know, Preston Manning's from Yellowhead. Preston Manning ran for MP in Yellowhead. Yellowhead has a lot of reform, independent, strong people that come from Yellowhead. Preston was he was running here. Joe Clark's from here too. Oh, that's cool. Are you, what is that? Irish, Spanish, Irish. Cool. Vote purple. Slayer, purple's okay. Yep, if you got a good purple and you don't have a good independent, because independents are rare and they're hard. It's very hard. But if you don't have a good independent, I would put my vote there. That's where my vote would be, purple. Right, Jim? If you're running in my riding, you would have my vote. Oh, Jeremy. Well, we're selling homes and property here, Jeremy. You could be in my riding pretty quick. But thank you, Jeremy. Where are you? Ontario? Where are you? The EA chain. Okay, agreed. Clay, it's all 3 levels and toss in the school boards too. Yeah, so, well, there's another level. So there's the school boards, there's municipal, there's county, there's provincial, there's federal, there's global. So there's a few levels. But the lower level ones, yeah, for sure. I would be so honored if a whole bunch of people would just run for the school boards. Go look at the school boards. They're Karen. It's just all Karens there. Like, go look at the Halton one. Go look at the Guelph one, because the Guelph one, they had a problem there too. They were they're doing something. I gotta go look it up in my tweet. But Guelph School Board did something bad, and Halton School Board is dealing with that guy who's really testing the limits. But go look at the school boards themselves. It's all Karens. It's all Karens. And then we wonder why our school is hyper woke. Get in there. People get in there. It doesn't matter if you're female, male, whatever. But these are goody two-shoe virtue signaling Karens. So get in there. Vote. People, we can do that. And there's a group in Ontario that's pushing for that. Parents for boards or something like that. Look it up. There's some parent boards that are pushing for this. They don't have enough to go the first go round. I wish I understood where you were at that with James. We were talking about the first protest. They didn't have enough. The people, the government. I think it was a perfect protest. And I don't think the protesters could have done really anything different. I haven't heard anything that made me go, oh, I wish they didn't do that. It's not out there. Got a long list for the other side, but I don't know what they could have done differently. I think it actually worked out quite well because this will be, I believe, this will put the Liberal Party off the national stage for a few elections, at least 2. That's what I'm thinking. We'll see, because this is going to be a lot of damage to that party. Judge will know on the 8th. There you go. There you go. To appear on the 10th. Okay, thanks, Prairie. Yeah, you're my little sleuth. You're getting that info. You've been on top of that one. So we should know 5 days. So is that what, Monday? Tuesday. So a week today, we might see Ford, according to Prairie. And we will. I don't think he can quash it. I don't think he'll be able to quash it. Oh, and tomorrow's Jeremy McKenzie, right? Today is Thursday. Yeah, so tomorrow we'll see Jeremy McKenzie. I am so looking forward to that. Smart, brilliant, strong, witty, aggressive, prickly, cutting. He's all of them. He's all of them and more. But he's also not a leader of a violent terrorist group. So I think it's going to be a lot like Farfada. When we saw Farfada kind of explain things. Farfada seems to be a little bit more active community-wise that I'm aware of for Diagonalong. But again, Jeremy is going to tell us everything tomorrow. I think the one thing we're not sure about is he going to be from jail? Are they going to fly him in? I think they might go for the pictures because his words aren't going to help them. They want to treat him like a human. He's there in a suit just like everybody else. But we're going to see tomorrow, aren't we? Get locally involved for sure. And you can do it. Please. I speak to a lot of people, good debaters. They got good brains. They're genuine people. They're honest people. And then I'll always ask them, hey, have you considered running? And it's immediately, there's a no. Okay, come on. This is our country. It shouldn't be an immediate no. It should be a, what would that take? And then consider it. It's not for everybody. I'm not trying to push everybody into it. But we need a lot more good people. Stop letting the establishment go find their leaders. The parties go and recruit people. They make people. They nurture people. They mentor people. The parties are generating our politicians. It wasn't the way it was supposed to be. We didn't envision it to be that way. So, you know, it's a tough job. I get it. Believe me, I get it. But you can do it. I have lots of faith in people. And it's like 4 documents, 8 signatures, and the will. And then there you go. You're in the race. All right. And if it helps you any, as soon as you do it for federal, as soon as you put up a website for federal, you get a blue check mark. Twitter gives it to you like right away. That's all I did, right? I got it in like hours. If that's important to you, and if it's relevant to you, that's a quick way to do it. But look, it's not that hard. Yeah, it's not that hard. If you have the will, you can do it. As the feds. Yeah. Well, the feds is a blanket term for anybody that has a federal paycheck, and FBI is federal paycheck. So that could just be for anybody, whether it's an inspector, whether it's a police, whether it's an official. Feds could be anybody with a federal paycheck. That came out last week in Inquiry about FBI working with OPS. Yeah, on an intelligence level. But I think what I read into that question, maybe I just read too far into it, that the FBI were here, like they were in Ottawa, sitting at tables. I don't know about that. I didn't catch that part. But most definitely, they would have been feeding intel to CSIS. They're always doing that. They're part of Five Eyes. The Five Eyes? Australia, UK, Canada, US. I think New Zealand's the 5th one, right? The Five Eyes. So, of course, we're always sharing intelligence with US, so I'm not surprised. But were the FBI here in Canada, that one would be a little bit surprising, but not unheard of. Police go to other jurisdictions all the time. Investigators go all the time. And as we know, the foreign influence narrative has fallen apart, at least the public one. I don't know if there's a private one, but the public narrative of the foreign influence has fallen apart. Was meeting minutes about it. Okay, cool. But again, was it here? Were they here? And look, yeah, Ellen, there's another one. Give, Send, Go might have triggered FBI. Okay? Because Give, Send, Go also triggered their fraud department. it was just a trigger because so many donations come in right away. It's immediately triggers. So maybe FBI was related to Give Send Go. Maybe. CIA is more foreign. That's exactly right. Oh, relations? No, Central Intelligence Agency. So the State Department's more foreign relations for the U.S. Ellen. But CIA is supposed to be external to their borders, and FBI is supposed to be internal to their borders. They're both intelligence agencies, but the State Department does more foreign relations. That was Hillary, right? When she was under Barack, that was her job. Secretary of State. Screwed some things up too, didn't she? If you look into it. You're just having a good time, Railroaded. The Convoy has put this country back on the map. The giant is now awake. Listen, John, I agree with that. And I actually kind of think that the world has paused to wait to see what we're doing. Because if Canada comes out of this with, we corrected the issues with our rights, and we established a new understanding with the government, and then we continued to protest, the rest of the world could look at that as a template. And I'm also optimistic that if we do this independent thing, we throw some independence in there, other countries will get the same idea. Just saying, nothing gets into the globalist. No thorns in the globalist side are all independent. Just put a bunch of them in there. Night Jim, nice hat. He's a great hat. He's got a great farm. He's got a great family. Well, he's got a great setup. Everything's good. He's got horses. Kind of jealous of his setup. He's a really, really, really nice guy. Hopefully he'll, let me tell you who he is and all that kind of stuff, but I want to give him his privacy. He can let us know when he wants to. From CBC, FBI provide. First of all, you said from CBC. So I'm going to read the rest with a lot of skepticism. FBI provided support to Ottawa police during Convoy protest. Ottawa police, not RCMP. Yeah, it's probably around GoFundMe. It was Ottawa police, the city of Ottawa, that were really pushing for the GoFundMe stuff to stop. So maybe they assisted in that front. Maybe they were telling them, hey, here's kind of where we need to get with the laws in order for us to trigger stuff on our end. Or they just called in because they were worried about a bunch of people bringing pillows from helicopters. Remember that? The pillow guy, the My Pillow guy? He mentioned that. He was going to drop pillows over the convoy from a helicopter. I think he got stopped at the border, actually. I think he was actually trying to do that. Mike, what's his name? Mike something? The My Pillow guy. Maybe it was related to that because he was vocal about that. Yep, seen that. I'm not surprised, though, guys. I'm not surprised. Maybe the FBI was trying to help with foreign money. Because we did find out later that was quashed. There was no substantial foreign support. There was just odd donations, but nothing that would be considered foreign influence. That's come out already. Just can't hang with me. Just can't hang me out like that. I got prayer support and some his name. Sorry, guys, I forget your name. Well, I think you're one of my favorite people, Railroaded. So I'm really looking forward to working with you. I understand you work with Stunt as well. There's a reason why just naturally people are attracted to you, Railroaded. It's about you. You're cool. U.S. was super restrained for their track record. 100%, James. I agree with that. Jan 6 could have been way worse. Way worse. But I think what happened was similar to Canada. I think we're all learning what honeypotting is and what setting up is and what all that will mean. I think we're all getting smarter. And did you guys hear about that Nancy Pelosi video? So Jan 6, she had like someone following around with a camera trying to do like podcast or just recording stuff. That's fishy right there. But her comment was something along the lines like, this is my time, or my time has come, or something along those lines, as they were coming towards the Capitol. But this is Canada. I'm focusing on Canada. When I get into the U.S. side of things, it's more around the global side of things, the globalist, global, and because our trading partner, and there's some stuff that I'll pay a lot of attention to, but I'm quite focused on Canada. But yeah, there's something that was weird around Pelosi, a video. She had a crew there, Jan 6. She made a quote about, it's my time or something like that. very fishy. Very fishy. These people have to learn how to just fly straight. Fly straight. What is your take on consequence for GT and the Liberals even saying? Well, my take on it, Louis, is saying JT and Freeland are from the same clique. Okay, they're from the same clique. They all went to that same little group, and they like each other. They hang out with each other. What are the consequences? If I rack my brain, I really think JT will leave Canada, retire and leave Canada. Maybe keep a citizenship, but he'll, like Napoleon, kind of just leave, be gone. Because there's not going to be much here for him after that. You know what, Louis? I'm going to pull back on that. I think I'm speculating too much there. That made me uncomfortable. I'm not sure, because I don't think there are consequences. The consequences are going to have to be, we just don't like him. He doesn't get voted in. But I really don't think that they're going to hit him with anything. I will push for it. I will bring a charge, but I don't think things will stick. But let me get back to you that on Louis. Okay, get me in there. We'll find out. But I don't think the 44th will do it. It'll be the 45th Parliament that will do anything. You got me thinking now. What could be the consequences be? Have a great night, Life Army. Oh, how come I only see you at the end here, Life Army? I'm sure you were listening all the time. Oh, man, you're awesome. But here you are at the end. Thanks a lot. I like you. Have a good night, bud. You take care, Life Army. Yeah, you can come back anytime. Take the VIP lane. You're in. Thanks for the reels. Eleanor, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Got to get a second screen for your chat. I do have a second screen, but look, I'm in StreamYard, and it brings everything in. It's a studio software thing, so I don't have the full YouTube chat. I can jump back and forth maybe, but the Facebook chat's here. Give me some time. I'm going to be moving to a different platform, and it might make things better. Website is up. Your People's Rona inquiry. Oh, cool. Cool. Okay, I'm going to look into that. We might talk about that tomorrow. Yeah, so the Preston Manning inquiry. I'm going to look into more of that. If you guys are on Twitter and you have a link, tweet it to me. Tag me in Twitter. Do me a favor. If you're my DM, you're in my DMs. Throw it in there. And if you want to be in my DMs, hit me on Twitter. Tell me you want to be in my DM Insider, and then I will follow you back, and then we're going to be connected that way. I do a message every morning. It's exclusive. I don't put it anywhere else. It's just for the insiders, because good feedback. They're very honest with me, and I like to bounce stuff off them. So things will go to insiders before they reach public. If you want to be part of that, hit me up on Twitter. Tell me you want to do that. I'll follow you back, and welcome. You'll get a daily message. Calgary, Jeremy. Cool. Okay. Well, Alberta, bud. Hey, you won't have to change your ID if you want to move to Yellowhead. You can keep your same driver's license. But great, Jeremy. It's nice to meet you. And thanks for that support about voting if you could. Jeremy's already Alberta. That's awesome. Maybe we should do something soon. My birthday, Ottawa. See if we're going to be in Ottawa with Stunt for my birthday. If not, maybe something here. February 14th is the EA. Born and bred. That's awesome, Jeremy. Alberta's great. When we rolled in here, it's a whole different world. It was 2019, but in a good way. It wasn't like you're headed towards something. It's great here. If you haven't been to Alberta, check it out. And if you've always considered living here, do it. It's really, really lovely here. There you go. There you go. Thank you, Jeremy. Parents for Choice in Education. Yeah, there's a few of these parent groups that have popped up. Parents Union. Yep. There's a few of these now. Support them. Get behind them. Whether you're going to run or not, support them. You can donate to them. You can help them with meetings. You can help recruit other good people. Support these parent unions. They had to come together because parents have to now stand up for their kids. The system's failing them. So, and I'm behind that too. I believe my wife is going to look into that. You can't be an MP and hold provincial power. So I'm going to have to pick federal or provincial. I'm going for federal. I think we need to fix it. And I've got my tools. I'm ready to go. Here in Alberta. Thank you, Jeremy, for pulling that up. Parents at first, educators. See, everywhere. So everybody find your local one, support it, go to a meeting, see what it takes. And look, you could help by running yourself. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. The hardest part is making the decision. After you've made that decision, the rest of it is just action. Just do it. And be yourself, because people want genuine people now. Don't try and kowtow and don't try and pander. Just be yourself and tell the truth. You want to protect the children? I'd vote for you. The FBI is always here. Several countries have yeah, I'm not surprised. We're part of Five Eyes, right, James? Five Eyes. So our intelligence are all connected. It's okay. Like, I don't have a problem with it. What I was curious about was, did they just come in for this? Are they here in Canada for this? Or, as you're saying here, James, they already have offices here. So I'm not spooked by that one. The UN spooks me. The UN showing up, that spooks me. Because they're not Five Eyes, and what the heck is a global UN doing here? That one spooks me, but not so much the FBI. Like I do mean always. Cool. Yes, relations was a word I used once. I could come up to the correct term. Couldn't. It was the FBI who arrested Mark Embry back in the day. Really? What are the here in Canada, or was this somewhere else? Take care, Rosario. Take care, bud. We'll see you. You probably can't hear this anymore, but take care, buddy. Okay. Jeremy Kennedy was denied to appear behind closed doors. What does that mean? Who asked for it? So you're asking for in camera. So he was denied to appear in camera, which is great. That means we'll be seeing him. But somebody asked for it, and then they said no. Well, that's wonderful. CIA, national security. Well, security, no, that's the Homeland. CIA, it might be part of it, but CIA is Central Intelligence Agency. They're straight up, and they do black ops, but they're again around, targeting and taking people out. National security, it's a little bit of Homeland, isn't it? That's what they put that together. U.S. system's kind of complicated. They got a lot of alphabet organizations there. So 6 one way, half a dozen the other, Ellen, possibly. SFB 4577, you're crying. So either you're replaying and you're caught up to a couple of Tamara's parts, or you don't like my jib. Either way, apologize for your crying. Best to you. For the mods. Yeah, no, I got, who is it? It's Wayne, it's Prairie, and it's Railroaded are my mods. Love you all. And again, don't feel obligated to show up. Just glad that you do. And thank you so much. And I want to get you something, Railroaded. You've been awesome. And you too, Prairie. Although you deleted one, right? Bright Wheel, accidental. And I think I accidentally did a timeout on somebody. I went to start and I think I timed out them, and then I didn't see them again. So look, if you got timed out by Jason Lavigne today, that was a mistake. I was trying to figure out the starring. I love you, freedom fighters. Railroaded, we're all in the same boat here, and this is lovely. I'm glad to see this happen. Sorry, my phone's buzzing. That's usually the wife to tell me either fix your hair or something else is up. Okay. Can you come connect the power when you get a chance? Martin are leaving now. Nothing turned on as they want you to review. Yeah. My buddies are awesome. Send them in. Send them here. Send them here, please. I want to say goodbye. Folks, I'm going to be wrapping up very soon here. We're at the bottom of the list, so we're good timing. Thanks for my indulgence on that. Smarter, but now we trust no one. Remote IT girl here for assistance if needed. Hey, Eleanor, you're remote IT? I'm IT. I think you're right. We are far more skeptical and smarter. Those kind of come hand in hand, don't they? The smarter you get, the more skeptical you're going to be. They kind of come in hand. Not trust no one. I still have a little bit of heart left. I still think there's room for trust. But skepticism has grown a lot, and the ability to actually experience and understand what it is that your government is really capable of has changed for me a lot. But it's this government, guys. I really, really, really think it's not all our government. It's just this government, and it's a select few. Eleanor, there's no such thing as too much IT support. You're right, Railroaded. Eleanor, you want to get in? Railroaded, do you know Eleanor? Do you guys work together? Do you want to work together? Eleanor, we're looking for, assistance. Railroaded is my executive producer, though. Hired, sealed, and no vax requirements, Railroaded. None. Enjoy yourself. Love Canada. Jeremy, you're awesome. James, JT and crew will settle into a diplomatic or foreign relations role, either civil or federal. Here's the thing with JT, though. He's not a well-wanted and well-sought-after world leader. He doesn't come from a history prior to doing this job, and he's not respected globally. He might be doing those $500,000 a night tours, might join the Clintons and all that kind of stuff. He might start doing that, but he doesn't have a big draw. He's not very popular around the world, and popular here. So, yeah, I'm curious. I just wonder if he'll go set up shop in Cuba. Maybe he might do that for a bit. Open your YouTube on your phone and watch your chat, Jason. So you want me to keep my chat open separately on my phone? I would sooner just do a small window, but let me play with that, Prairie. Is that just to do the icons, emojicons? Because I can still type chat in here. I just can't do the special characters. Yeah, Prairie, I'm learning. There's a lot of things to jump around and pick up. Thank you, though. Emery was arrested in Vancouver by the FBI with RC. How? How? Like the actual arrest? Are you sure the actual arrest was by the FBI, or was it the RCMP and then they handed him over for jurisdiction? Because that's what they would do at the airport. RCMP would pick him up on the land here. FBI can be standing right beside them, but the arrest would be affected by the RCMP. Jurisdictionally, the FBI can't do that. It would be kidnapping. That's why I'm saying that. Like it would be kidnapping under our laws. They don't have police power. RCMP do. So RCMP could affect the arrest on the FBI's direction, go to the airport, jump on an airplane, hand them over. That's it. They're gone, extradited. Or they sit in our jail here as they work out the extradition part. But FBI may be there, maybe said arrest that man, but FBI did the arrest. It would have to be the RCMP. No, CIA is foreign intelligence gathering for national. Yeah, so it's all part of so national security. One of the arms is the intelligent one. Homeland, you got state, like all together collectively become something. So yeah, I think we're saying similar things here, Ellen. But again, I'm subject to change. Yeah, just walk in, guys. Yeah, so my studio's being broken into. Is it? Nope, it's not Trudeau. I'm not being shut off, folks. I just got a couple of friends. Come warm up a bit. Let me just finish up and I'll be right with you, gentlemen. Look at this. You got to pull the handle open on the inside. It doesn't slam shut. You got to actually open it. Yeah, it's good. Great stuff. All right, folks. We're at the end of this chat. Now I have an audience here. I won't turn the camera because they seem a little shy. But they look identical with the hats on and their weird beards. Okay, for the chat, Mark Emery is the Prince of Pot from the 90s who got the Julian Assange treatment for selling pot seeds through a magazine. Okay, so the Julian Assange, is he being extradited? Yeah, he's being extradited to the U.S., isn't he? All right. I have to look into that, James, because I'm not familiar with that. Again, I think the FBI may have directed the arrest, but I don't think they have jurisdiction, and they couldn't do it in Canadian land. But the RCMP would. Good night, Jason Lavigne, and good night, my Canadian homies. Talk tomorrow on the Brady Bunch. Yes, tomorrow, the Brady Bunch. I would love to be Marsha. And I'll get the football, right? Yeah, Brady Bunch. So 9 of you can join me, and it'll be all over the place. It should be fun. And let's be good, all right? Let's not get me kicked off of YouTube. We'll save that for another night. Oh, yes, I remember that, James. So Prairie, and that's the arrest? I want to know who did the arrest, if you can find that out. Again, the FBI can direct arrests. Think think the Chinese CEO's daughter, Huawei. Yeah, that wasn't a Canadian arrest. That was directed by the U.S. Wayne, Prairie, Stunt, admin, IT support, Eleanor, as mentioned, never too much IT support. Hope you're on that list soon. Oh, look at that Railroad. Yeah, you got our whole mod list going. And Eleanor, Railroad, Eleanor, meet each other. And Railroad, let me know if you want another mod. What? I got deleted again? Bright Wheel, that was just a one time. Did it happen twice? Third time, I'm gonna have to have a pink slip for someone. Let's not delete Bright Wheel. I did one today though, so Prairie may have accidentally got you, but I got someone else. Trevor, something for Trevor. Yeah, I'm sorry, guy. I accidentally did the button. And how do I get on that list? Are you talking about the mod list? Chat with Railroad, connect with Railroad, and she'll let you know. And if she says green light on Eleanor, I'll push that button for you. Actually, I believe Railroaded. Once you get into this back end, you could actually do that too. We'll talk. Bright Wheel was accident. Bright Wheel 2, Railroad. Did you get that? I did. No, that was Prairie that did Bright Wheel. Okay, cool. That's the second time you did it to me. Oh, sorry, Bright Wheel. Mistakes happen, right? We got Trudeau. Thought it was ironic. Universe was. I'm not gonna say that word out loud, but cool. Not me, Prairie. Yeah. Prairie did one. Yeah. Prairie's guilty. Prairie, yes, you did. That's what the message said. It said deleted by Prairie. I went and looked at it because I was trying to undo it, but once deleted, it's deleted. But what was more important is he could stay in the chat, so we didn't ban or do anything like that. It's a universal connection, young man. Bright Wheel. You guys are fun, and yeah, you did, Prairie. That's okay though. We still love you. Yeah, no worries. Railroad's good. WF won't want JT once. Hey Taylor, I think WF has already kicked him out. I think they already kicked him out. He's failed them miserably. This entire EA failed and it didn't work. So they're not happy with him. They're also not happy with Biden, just so you know. Pocket swipe on the way to work, maybe. Oh my, sorry, I was listening and running around with my phone in my pocket. My apologies, Bright Wheel. Aha! So you pocket deleted him? You pocket modded him? All right, Bright Wheel. I think we found what happened here. You're safe. No worries, Prairie. Didn't even notice. Yeah, it was like a hello Jason message too that got deleted. That was fun. I'll be more careful. Don't worry, Prairie. We love you. Don't worry. Any friend of Jason's is a friend of ours. Ellen, you are amazing. You're amazing. And you're in my Twitter now too. And if you're all in Ottawa, I'm coming on the 12th. I'll be there for a few weeks. So let's connect. I was called to work today. Yeah. Got to get those paychecks in so that Justin can spend your money, right? Thanks, Jason. Have a good night. Tomorrow will be big day. Very big day. Jeremy. So let me give you all the witnesses tomorrow. We're expecting Chris Deering and Maggie Hope Braun. And it looks like they're appearing together. And then we got Jeremy McKenzie. Clear your afternoon, folks. Jeremy McKenzie, dialogue. Is he going to lose his, or is he going to tell it like it is? Is Canada going to believe? Will they revoke all of his charges? Let's find out. And then we should be ending with Daniel Bulford. And that'll be the end of the convoy, folks. It's going to be downhill after that. So once we're done this week, it's just privy, government, Justin. It's just going to be a lot of crap. But I'm going to be there. I'll interview everybody, and we'll find out if we can get more information about the in-camera stuff. We're going to do what we can. We want to disclose everything, right? They did arrest him here. But yeah, okay, but the FBI, did the FBI do the arrest? The RCMP was there. It would be kidnapping. They don't have jurisdiction. Anyways, I don't know if we'll solve that here tonight, Dale, but we certainly don't like the idea of any other state arresting people in our land. LOL, Jason's friends hearing him talk about Brady Bunch will start thinking about having him committed. Yeah, wait till they find out that there's no screen here. I'm just looking at a blank screen. Yeah, they're chuckling over there. Yeah. Night, Jason and all. Good night, Clay. You have a great night. Good night. Eleanor, I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you for coming again. Prairie, you have yourself a good night. Going to make supper. Good night, everyone. What are you having, Prairie? Farmer sausage, I hope. Manitoba has a world's best Mennonite farmer sausage. I lived on that for several years when I was there. Couldn't find it anywhere else in Canada. Enjoy it. I'm jealous. Railroad, night freedom fighters, much, much love. You all have the rest of the evening. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care, Railroad. We'll see you in the morning. We'll see if you're first again. You beat me yesterday. I wasn't even first. Oops, pocket mod. Yeah, watch that pocket mod, and at least you're not doing delete all or anything like that. That's good. Railroaded, that's it. Oh, we're almost at the end here. Jeremy, you have yourself a good night. Railroaded, you have yourself a good night. Eleanor, good night. Prairie, good night. Dale, good night. Ellen, good night. Oh, Dale, there's so many here. Bright Wheel, you have a good night. Sorry for your deletes. John Patterson, great chats. Look forward to meeting you. James, thanks for coming. Hey, Jim, thanks for coming from Rocky Mountain House. So, fellow Yellowhead. Who else we got here? We got lots of Jeremy. Jeremy, you did a great job today. Light fire me. Why do I only get you at the end? Come on out earlier. Louis, you have yourself a good night. And what you don't know is staggering. I still love your name. You win the best name. And I'm sure there's several more of you. So sorry if I missed you. Slayer, there you are. You have yourself all a good night. Okay, I'm going to wrap up. These gentlemen want to go home. They're starting to look a little grumpy. So let me get them home. Have yourself a good night. You all take care. 9 a.m. tomorrow, Eastern Standard Time. The inquiry starts at 9:30. We'll do some banter, and we'll have a good night. All right? You all take care. God bless. And if you liked this video, remember to like and subscribe and press that notification button to receive more information like this. You can also follow me at yellowhead.vote to stay informed and get the inside scoop. Thank you.